Councilwoman Cotton,
Here.
Councilman Jackson, Councilman Khalid, Councilman Mendez.
Good evening, President Clerk.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mims,
Good evening, I'm here.
Councilman Rivera, Councilman Rivera,
Here.
Councilman Velez.
Present, Madam Clerk.
Madam President,
Present.
thank you.
Madam Clerk, can you please read the statement of compliance?
Yes, Council President. Statement of compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law 2021-2022. Meeting date December 29th, 2021. Time is at 5:30 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting was compiled and disseminated in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law in the following manner. 1. The annual notice of regular meetings and workshop sessions of the Municipal Council was compiled for the year 2021 through 2022 on or about July 1, 2021. 2. A schedule of the regular meetings and workshop sessions of the Municipal Council for the year 2021 through 2022 was duly transmitted on or about July 1, 2021 to the North Jersey Herald News, the Record, the Arabic Voice, the Italian Voice, the Passaic Council Pulse, Dominicana News, the Quisqueya International, El Especial, the Paterson Press, the City Post News, Tap into Paterson, in addition to any other publication duly requesting such notices. 3. The schedule of the regular meetings and workshop sessions of the Municipal Council for the year 2021 through 2022 was prominently posted in the lobby of City Hall, first floor in the place reserved for the announcements of this type. 4. The schedule of the regular meetings and workshop sessions of the Municipal Council for the year 2021 through 2022 was duly filed with the Municipal Clerk. And 5. A copy of the schedule of regular meetings of the Municipal Council was mailed to any person who requested and paid the fee authorized by the Open Public Records Act. Madam President.
Thank you very much. Just for purposes, since there are some that are seeing this through YouTube, Madam Clerk, our Deputy Clerk, if you just state your name, because it says Sonia Gordon, and we understand that Ms. Gordon is not here today. So for the record.
Yes, I'm Jacqueline Murray, and I am the Deputy City Clerk for the City of Paterson.
Okay, very good. Okay, at this time, I'll take a motion for payment of bills.
Payment of bills for December 29, 2021. We have total payments of $8,323,010.22, of which $4,636,626.55 is for payroll.
I have a second.
Second.
Second. So moved by Councilman Rivera and second by Councilwoman Mims. Discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Council President. Roll call and payment of bills in the amount of $8,323,010.22. Councilman Abdelaziz.
Yes.
Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes.
Councilman Mendez.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just before my vote, just for the record, looking at the overtime list, we're exceeding all the line item, all the categories on the overtime, and I've been requesting to the Madam BA a plan to control overtime. I'm just gonna put that on the record, that something must be done with the overtime. My vote is yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Mims.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Rivera.
What is this?
Councilman Velez,
Acknowledging that we have a short staff due to COVID-19 for the past 13 days. And this overtime is real justified. So my vote is yes, add that payroll and also add the payment of bills.
thank you, Councilman. Madam President,
Yes.
the votes are 7 yeses, 2 absences. Payment of bills in the amount of $8,323,010.22 is hereby adopted.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm losing my spot here. Okay, so it's my understanding, Madam VA, that you removed items 14, 15, 16, and 17?
Yes.
That is correct.
And the council members, please be aware that on your agenda, items 14, 15, 16, and 17 have been removed. Okay, council members, I'd like to ask you, well, not ask you, but actually make a statement. It seems as though, and I don't understand why, but, as council colleagues, when there's questions, we should be asking each other instead of putting information out there that may be perceived as false. And so the item number 23 is an item for discussion, an item that if anyone rolls back to the tapes can see that our finance chair for the last 2 years has been putting on record and also having discussions in finance. Our Councilman Kalik as well, Councilman Mendez. So the Finance Committee has had some discussions, and so we wanted to bring a discussion. Councilman Kalik requested to our Corporation Council to prepare a resolution, but it was for discussion only. And so, and to see if we would move forward and then bring it to workshop for next year. So let us be mindful. There were some emails that were sent, a letter that came to the clerk's office at, I don't know, it was maybe almost 4:30 in the afternoon, and soon after, our Corporation Council did respond back. Okay, so we are in our right. We respond to our constituents, and maybe when we get ready to have that discussion, I'm gonna have our finance chair kind of lead that discussion. But I do want to ask right now, since there are some items that we had to from our last meeting that extended, our readings were not done. If you wanted to take action now and do those first, since we have to open and close the public portion for each one, if that's okay with you, I'd like to proceed with that. If you want to go into the rest of the items and maybe open up the public portion.
Madam President, if I may, there is an item to be voted on the agenda as well. It's item memorializing the late Russell Grady.
Yes. So that item, just council members, as soon as I heard it very early on when Mr. Grady, who everyone loves very much, passed away, I had Corporation Council prepare a resolution. Since I know various council members, every time you're soon on it, I got on it right away, and I asked that the entire council co-sponsors that resolution. So with that said, we can move forward, and actually let's move to make a motion to accept.
Can I have a discussion?
We haven't moved in a second, so you're gonna have
Okay, we'll move it in a second, okay.
So, Madam Clerk, can you please read into the record so we can vote on it?
Yes, Madam President. It's a resolution by the City Council. It's resolution memorializing the life and legacy of Russell Grady. It's sponsored by Council President Maritza Davila and co-sponsored by all remaining members of the Honorable Municipal Council. City Council Resolution 21686.
Okay, moved by Councilman Velez and second by Councilman Mendez. Roll call to add the item to the agenda.
Can I do the discussion first?
No, roll call to add it, then we have the discussion.
Okay.
Roll call to add resolution memorializing the life and legacy of Russell Grady. Councilman Abdelaziz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cotton,
The reason why I wanted the discussion first before I acted on
That's what
it.
we to have a discussion.
Okay, yeah, I'm not really satisfied with the way it was written up, and
We can
right, that's right. I'm not satisfied how it was written up, and so that's why I needed the discussion. So, if it can't be changed, then
Councilwoman, is it just a yes or no, then we'll go into the same.
right,
We have the discussion.
it is. I know this man 50 years.
Okay,
I'll put it on the agenda. I will put it on the agenda, but I will have my discussion with all my council colleagues.
Councilwoman, it's a yes or no.
I said yes, Council President.
Councilman Mendez,
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Mims, Councilman Rivera,
Yes.
Councilman Velez,
Yes.
Councilman Jackson,
I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, are we voting?
we're voting to add an item on the agenda. It's a resolution memorializing the late Russell Grady.
Yes,
Madam President. Oh, Councilwoman Mims, I'm sorry.
Our vote is no, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Madam President.
So, with that said, it's obvious that it has to have unanimous. And so, as you can see, the item failed. I will continue to say this. This is nothing different than any other council member. When someone passes, they rush to do something quickly. And so, with that said, the discussion was gonna be had, we're not gonna have it now, okay? But just let it be known for the record that I will be sponsoring such item. And Councilwoman Cotton, I will definitely be working with you to move forward on the 50 years that you've known him. So with that said, Madam Clerk, that item is not going on and we are okay with that. Let's move forward to the next item. Okay, so why don't we just go ahead now, and I think item 9 is really important to do now. Councilman Rivera, item number 9 for budget transfers, so Madam VA. If you want to read it into the record.
Yes.
Sorry, Madam Clerk, I said Madam VA.
Item number 9 is a resolution authorizing budget transfers for calendar year 2021. It's a finance resolution 21667, and this failed at the special meeting on Tuesday, December 7, 2021.
Can I have a motion?
Move.
Can I have a second? Can I have a second?
Second,
Okay, moved by Councilman Velez and second by Councilwoman Cotton. Any discussions?
Discussion, Council President.
Discussion, Councilman Velez?
As everybody knows, and probably the finance chair could elaborate a little bit more on it, this is a process like no other, like different than the fiscal year that we have. We have to transfer whatever we have to be able to operate on a calendar year that starts this coming week. Let's be mindful. We need to transfer some money that is sitting and needs transferred to the other side to make sure that our government runs properly. So I just want to say that because last time it was a confusion and why we was taking forward this.
Okay, so I appreciate your comment. Before you speak, Councilman Rivera, I hope that everyone received, because I know there were questions to recreation, and I saw that the director did email all of us. I don't know if everyone received the email, but hopefully everyone received some of the explanations of the surpluses and the reasons why there were surpluses and why every year this is a process that we do to close out. So, Councilman Rivera?
Do you mind, Javier, do you mind reading these transfers into the record since we're doing this through, I know it's gonna take a little longer, but can you read them into the record, please?
Sure. I'm transferring from insurance. Do you want me just to read from and then to? All right, so I'm transferring from insurance, 500,000. From salary and wages from Department of Law, 150,000. From fire, salary and wages, 334,000. From Division of Engineering, salary and wages, 40,000. From Division of Streets, salary and wages, 100,000. From Recreation, salary and wages, 200,000. From Municipal Court, salary and wages, 125,000. From Emergency Management, OEM, salary and wages, 50,000. Total from $1,499,000. I'm transferring to Department of Law, other expenses, 150,000. Division of Police, salary and wages, $1,050,000. Recreation, other expenses, 25,000. Division of Health, salary and wages, 46,000. Historic Preservation, salary and wages, 28,000. Municipal Court, other expenses, 50,000. And OEM, other expenses, 150,000. A total of $1,499,000.
Thank you, Javier. So, Madam President, I know there was a lot of concerns before, and I was not at the meeting. You mind if you let the other council members express their concern?
Oh, I don't mind. As I stated, anyone that wants to speak, if you could just raise, it's a little easier if you raise your hand. I can kind of see who goes first. So I'm going to give the floor to Councilman Mendez. But you are correct, Councilman Rivera. And I know that one of the questions was, why were we moving, doing a transfer from recreation of 500,000? And if I can see now, there's been a reduction in that. And so just wanted to put that on record. Councilman Mendez, then Councilman Velez.
Thank you, Javier. Just a quick question. Good evening, Javier. It's my opinion that there's a little bit over $1 million that we didn't use on recreation within this fiscal year. Are we accurate with that number? A little bit over $1 million, correct?
That's correct.
So we have not used, correct, over $1 million. So now, you were doing a budget transfer for 500,000. Now you went down to 200,000. Can you explain a little bit or elaborate a little bit more on that?
So these budget transfers are basically to cover expenses through the year end and salary through year end, through December 2021. So there's other budget transfers coming in January. I have 3 months, January, February, and March. So I'm going to do other transfers that I am going to need to cover, I believe, other expenses.
So what you're doing for now is instead of taking $500,000 out of recreation, you put it back to 200,000 and just taking 200,000 at this point.
Correct. I'm just taking 200,000, correct.
Taking in consideration that in the future, you will take some money out of the line item, correct?
Possibly, yes.
Okay, so let me just for the record, I received the letter from the Director of Recreation in the City of Paterson. I started this argument. I'm very aware about this process. I've been in government for a minute. I know that every year at the end of the calendar year, we have to do budget transfer. But that also, I pay a lot of attention to the budget transfer because that you could see how effective the administration is when they budget. They budget $1 million for any category, and at the end, you need to see how much money they spend. I understand that we'll be going to put the COVID situation. The department changed a lot. I got the letter from the director, and I'm looking to have more conversation on. So that was my argument. I was upset because I know that our children deserve more in the city of Paterson, but I understand that we're going through a lot because of COVID. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Just leave it like that for a minute. Thank you.
Councilman Mendez, Councilman Velez, then Councilman Abdelaziz, then Rivera.
Council President, very quickly,
I'm sorry.
I don't have access to the docuware.
None of us. Didn't you get your packet? I
did not.
Okay.
It was emailed to everyone.
It
Check
was
your email, Councilman, please.
From you, Ms. Murray?
It's from Joan Douglas.
Okay.
John Douglas. Okay. So, Councilman Velez, Abdelaziz, Rivera.
Thank you, Council President. As we know, we got a little bit concerned regarding what was going on with the transfer. When I say we are whole entire body got concerned. The only situation I'm looking here is that Javier just mentioned that we are transferring to the Department of Public Safety to Division of Police Salary and Wages, $1.50 million, $50,000, 1.5, I would say, $1 million, a little bit extra to the public safety, but it says police, Division of the Police. Why? Are we giving what? Why we need this to salary and wages?
To cover their salary and their overtime for the whole year.
So in other words, you put in the
So the whole budget was 42 million.
you put in the carriage first, that's before the horse, and you know that they're going to spend that money, or is that?
Councilman Velez, let us just, like, when you ask a question, let them respond, and then you come back, because the way that it.
It's a delay.
Yeah.
It's a delay.
So the
So-
whole budget,
Yeah, go ahead.
our whole budget salary and wages was 42 million. They spent it for 43,050.
But the word salary and wages, so you telling me that they could spend it in overtime?
Yes, they spent about
No, we haven't transferred it yet. Today we gotta make that vote. So, in other words, are you expecting that they will spend a little bit more $1 million in overtime?
correct. They already spent.
And can the administration supply who are the benefit on that overtime by ranks?
Sure.
Thank you, Council President.
Okay, thank you very much. I understand what you're saying, Councilman Velez, but just be mindful, the statement you made before, Jackson, you'll go after Rivera, okay? Your statement, it is my understanding that a lot of these expenditures have come due to COVID and all those additionals, those special SOGs and other, situations that have occurred in our city concerning COVID and people being out and all of that. So,
I believe some of them is refundable back, or depends on the grants that they submitted to the state, right? Correct? So the administration had to be a little bit clear when it comes to this process, because people could receive, like I could receive, like it is a mismanagement or an excessive overtime without that justification.
no, I understand where you're coming from. So, at the Lee's Rivera Jackson.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Council President. So at the last meeting, I heard a lot of rhetoric about the recreation and look at, at the end of the day, we want to pump and infuse as much money into our recreation department. And this transfer here makes it look like we're taking away money from recreation. And I'm in this field, right? And this year is not a normal year when it comes to recreation and athletics. Just today, I was talking to athletic directors throughout North Jersey. Just these last 2 weeks, there's hundreds of cancellations of events. Thousands of dollars aren't spent on transportation, aren't spent on official fees. Literally just spoke to my colleagues and athletic directors in Bergen County. Go look at your local high school's athletic schedules and look at how many cancellations occur. So I have tremendous confidence in our recreation director. He outlined why this money wasn't spent. It isn't us moving this. I know we could say that rhetoric, we didn't spend the money. COVID year, when it comes to athletics and recreation, is a bleep year. It's a year that you cannot count and act as it was normal. I would ask anyone, and I will invite, how about this? I would invite, if anyone is hesitant on this, I would invite some of my colleagues from the Big North Conference that will come here and tell you how their budgets weren't spent last year because of COVID. Between official accounts where a lot of the money gets spent, between transportation, you can't even get a bus right now because there is no bus drivers. There is no bus drivers. COVID has impacted many budgets. So our recreation director outlined it on an email that was sent to us, explaining to why. simple enough, the basketball league. The governor put an executive order not allowing indoor activities for the first part of the year, right? The youth sports weren't allowed to participate. So that has a detrimental effect on how much you spend on your athletic budgets. And we just had this conversation because guess what? We may see this again next year. Currently, today, I was speaking to athletic directors and they said, they're like, you know what? We're not spending as much money. I know a wrestling tournament that had 16 schools signed up to go. They had 8 as of this morning. Half of the tournament didn't show up. So they didn't use the money for transportation, the bus drivers, the maintenance guys, etc., as some of our colleagues would say. So to my colleagues, I know we could say we didn't spend this. This isn't us arbitrarily taking away $500,000 for recreation. I think this is one area that this council unanimously supports is recreation. And, you know, we usually don't agree on anything, but this is an area that we could agree on. And I just want my colleagues to understand that this year, COVID, and if you ask, and I know some of you have your contacts with athletic departments within our city, ask them how much of an effect with their budgets. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Councilman Rivera?
So I wasn't at that meeting where this was discussed previously, and I couldn't believe that the comments that were being passed in this council. You know, some of us been here for years now, and what happens is, this money's not gonna go anywhere. The 2 places that this money could have gone to right now is either be transferred to another line or going to our surplus, right? That's where it goes. Now, the concern should have been why $1 million is being moved to the police department, right? And let's not say that, yes, COVID has something to do with it, but this has been happening since day one, since I've been on this council. I've been complaining about it, that we need better oversight. Again, we as a council cannot prevent them from working the overtime. That initiative needs to come from the administration and the police department. We had this discussion when we were voting on the bills list. They have overspent their overtime allocation by 276%. That means that all the vacancies that they had in their police budget, they have utilized for overtime. That money should have come back as surplus to provide some relief to the taxpayers in the future. That's where that money should have gone. And we're voting budget transfer, which is something normal that gets voted on every year. We're not taking anything away from recreation. Even if we were moving the $1 million from recreation to cover a legitimate deficit in the budget, we should not take the angle of, oh my God, we're taking away money from recreation. If anything, since I've been a council member, since this council here, let's just say since this council's been here, we've been increasing recreation year after year. Now, because of the circumstances, if the money was not used, I just don't like the angle that it was taken by some of my colleagues. You know, everything don't have to be politics. Everything does not have to be politics. It's shameful. It's shameful.
Thank you, Councilman Rivera. Councilman Jackson?
Thank you, Council President. First and foremost, any one of council members who have a concern of whether or not young people services that are not being provided, that have not been provided the entire time we've been here and beyond, I don't understand how there's this interjection of how it's being politically driven for individuals, for anyone, honestly, to be concerned of whether or not there's services to our young community who are forced to be engaged in all kinds of derelict activity because we have a shortage of paying for services for them. You know, I have a team that just recently went down to Florida that had to raise over $50,000, and that money could have been redirected to help that team go down there so our young people who went down there could have participated in other activity. Maybe we take those kids to Disney. There's all kinds of other things that could have taken place. Now, one of the things that I'm concerned about, if you look at the items, and yeah, the police is easy to point out because it's such a egregious amount, but you have the statutory agencies, historic preservation, with a salary and wages. Like you have these line items should be tightly budgeted. Who's getting some kind of an increase, or what deficit was created that there needed to be a budget transfer to a salary line item for historic preservation? I'm very curious to understand that.
Councilman, that question, can we have our CFO answer it? I mean,
Well, while he's answering that, he can also answer the salary and wage item for the Division of Health. Which, with the Division of Health, I can understand because I know that they've been administering the COVID testing and vaccines, but I still want to clarify what those expenses are before I continue.
I can jump in here, Council President. I know for that one for historic preservation, that was something that there was a transfer of a position from one of the divisions to another and so it wasn't something that was budgeted from early in the year. And as we come forward with another budget transfer, probably in the new year, we'll be able to show that we didn't include anything. I know the CFO just included the bare minimum for this to cover salary and wage for this year. So it doesn't have every department on here, so it doesn't have economic development, but we will be able to transfer some money out of where that position was and where it was budgeted.
Madam BA, can you be more specific? What position was transferred?
I believe it was a secretarial position, so a clerk position that was moved from one of the divisions into historic, to officially be under historic preservation where they were providing the work anyway.
So a $28,000.
It might have just been a portion of what was needed.
A portion. So from what department, from what division was it moved? So where's the line item there? Was a reduction?
We will, as I just mentioned, we'll be able to show that at the next budget transfer.
How would we ask to vote on an item where we can't have specific details on it today? We're asked to vote on moving revenue without having specific details.
Sure, I mean, if you want to talk about that one, I answered what it was. It's $28,000 out of a $1.5 million budget transfer. And I explained that it really was just a transfer of a position, not a transfer of funding. But you'll see in a lot of the other ones.
Once again, what's the specifics? You can just arbitrarily say we transferring one to something else without specifically designating what that specific transfer was and where did it come from? From what department and division was it transferred from?
Councilman Jackson, wait, because you know what, we're not gonna do this because we're gonna be here all night with this, and we've had this now.
We're transferring funds. This is council's job, to be financially responsible.
Councilman Jackson, you are correct, and what I'm saying is she answered a portion. Your second question was where did it come from? That she didn't answer. She can answer that.
She cannot answer.
I can't answer that right now because I don't have the documents in front of me to compare to the payroll documents. But what I will do is I will get that information and send it to you.
The CFO doesn't know where the money's coming from or where it's going?
It's more a comparison of not where the money is from and where it's going, is where it was originally budgeted and where the payroll was run and at what point in the year that transfer was made. So again, a clerical position, you might have somebody who was moved from one place to another that we originally budgeted for them. Let's take another department. We originally budgeted for them in, streets and roads, and they ended up working in sewer. So that budget transfer, that department might have more money to absorb that change. These departments, there are only a few staff. You actually see the big change between one division to another. That's the $28,000. I will find that information for you. I just don't have it in front of me to compare to the CFO's numbers.
What about the Health and Human Services line item?
Well, that would, like, as you mentioned, that would be overtime costs, and that's even after grant funding was taken out of some of the overtime was covered by grant funding. This is what remains over and above what was budgeted within the Division of Health.
So, Madam President, Mr. Chairman, Finance Chair, it would be phenomenal if we can get a detailed report specifically outlining the overtime report, because what's been happening here, and here's the travesty with such a lack of oversight, such a lack of fiscal oversight. You have people who are padding their salaries, ramping them up for retirement, so that when they go into retirement, their budget for
Their pensionable salary?
their pension has a substantial increase. So
I don't know
I would like to have, as we are, moving on this item tonight, would I like to have a specific detailed outline on where this overtime, who's getting the overtime, ranking staff in the police department, fire department, as well as some of these other departments as well. And this is the type of oversight that we have not been diligent on. And we have, I'm watching a whole bunch of white shirts out here on these road jobs and working this overtime when, the lower ranked individuals in that department are being denied overtime. So, once again, Council President, relative to my email that I sent to you the other day, I'm hopeful that, these requests aren't going on deaf ears, because every time I make a request for something, for some reason or another, it's being overlooked.
Council President?
1 second. Thank you, Councilman Jackson. Before I allow you to speak, Madam VA, it's going to be Councilwoman Cotton Rivera, right? So I'm going to allow you to speak, Madam VA.
Sure, I just wanted to note that, Councilman Jackson, we provide the overtime reports with everyone's name in that payroll every single pay period after we get them. So the last one that I sent to you was for the 12/10 payroll. We haven't had the one for the Christmas payroll yet, but I sent that on December 16th. And that is something that we try to provide and be transparent about with the council.
So just for a point of clarity, and I appreciate that, Madam VA, Madam President, by providing an Excel spreadsheet with a list of names does not lend clarity to the ranking file of where, what ranked officers are being allotted overtime. I don't know all the staff members by name, and I don't need to see their name as much as I need to see their rank and what specific overtime duties were they allowed overtime for. I mean, that would be a much more feasible list instead of, a long drawn out list of 2,000 employees and what overtime. I want to be able to look at the list by rank and file and look at, who's being allowed overtime or the necessity for overtime. We shouldn't have more ranked officers, captains and lieutenants and chiefs on overtime. We shouldn't have chiefs doing roadside jobs, which I've seen in the past, which is absolutely, crazy. So, I mean, I would like to see that list in a more detailed manner, not just names and their number of hours.
Okay. So let us move forward as please be aware we're almost going an hour into our meeting and we need to have public portion. We have an executive session that we need to go into, and we also have all the items. The second reading items. So Councilwoman Cotton.
Thank you, Council President. As I'm looking at this budget transfer, I'm looking at the two things that really sticks out for me is that the Office of Emergency Management, because we needed to have that Women's Center open, and I know for a fact that the state has not the state, but the county has cut back on some of the funds that they were allowed over there at the Hope Center. And so they needed to, some of the Women's Center, I know, because I visited we're open for 2 or 3 days at a time, and the funds that we normally would get from the county has not been coming through like it should. So that one particularly sticks out, and I can see because we gotta keep that Women's Center open. We have to do that. The other thing is with the municipal court, and the reason why I say that about the municipal court is that I had called our court clerk and asked him about helping people who got to do Zoom court. What I discovered when I went down to the leagues of cities and I looked at the city like Plainfield and Roselle, where they were saying that for those people that they have that do not know how to come on Zoom to appear in court, and court could be anything, a ticket, a ticket from community development, a ticket from community improvement. So, and he said to me that they were helping, because it is more now than ever before, because people were so used to going into court and now they cannot get there, that they need help of just trying to be on the Zoom. And I know for a fact, I personally have helped people to go on Zoom court. And with the other expenses, when I look at, and I wish that, not say I wish, but even with, you see what's happening with the rise of COVID coming back again, we're gonna get shut down again. I can see as we get ready to get shut down, and it's really sad, but I know with the health department, I look at the lines out there now, I find now that people are getting tested more, they're getting tested more, the lines are long and people have to wait. So those are the things that I know with the police department, with the overtime. I know there's a lot of work that's happening. There's a lot of things that's going on in our community. It's a lot, and I think that the police are getting. I would like to even see the stats on how many calls are coming in for police assistance. And sometimes it's just you think it's nothing, but people are actually calling the police department for all different things. So, and I know that once, like Councilman Flavio Rivera said, that whatever's extra left, that we can put it, we may not spend it all, and we can put it into our surplus, and that will help our taxpayers, say, the following year, because this all may not get spent. And so we have that extra surplus there. But I know for a fact that police department, and I want Madam VA, please, try to get statistics of the calls that are coming in to our police department with the 911, with the 111 number. See what it looks like, because I get them too. But this is awful. This is a lot. But this extra money, we transfer. But if it's not spent, we can put it into our surplus, and that's what we're hoping, that we don't spend it all. Thank you, Council President.
So, I think, Councilman Rivera, then we're gonna do a roll call. Councilman Rivera?
So, that's why these meetings take so long, because all the misinformation and this unnecessary sometimes discussions. I'll give you an example. I've been on the record for many years, even on the newspaper, talking about overtime, even before this COVID situation. We in finance, asked the CFO, and they're here right now, they could say if it's true or not. We used to budget for retirement payouts, and they used to include that amount in the salaries. This is the reason why I asked them to remove it. You know why? Because salary and overtime is in the same line. So if they budget 37 million for salary, and this year they budgeted 1.8 for overtime, because of the vacancies, they were able to spend $5 million almost in overtime. That's why they need this $1 million transfer also. So I have done my due diligence and looking for solutions, not just complaining and pointing out the wrongs, but I try to put things in place to limit them somehow. Now, when we approve a budget, Council President and Council colleagues, when the budget was presented to us, was to have 400 and something officers. Right now they have 300 something. Now, with that money that's unspent, the administration has the flexibility to utilize it for overtime because the money is there. We're limited. Once we approve the budget, if the money's in the line item, they could utilize it. So I have taken measures. I have asked the administration to remove those things that will give them more money to spend on overtime. So that being said, this is why these meetings go so long, because of all the rhetoric. Look, a comment was just passed right now, 2 comments, and I leave it at that, Council President. 2 comments was passed that don't make sense. Overtime does not increase your pension. It does not increase your pension. Overtime does not increase your pension to an employee. That's 1. 2, we got to look at the labor contracts. How is, people people's, how is the manpower utilized? You know, what is the process? He goes by seniority. Yes, I know where you're getting, at Councilman Jackson, makes sense. You should be using probably the officers that are getting paid less, so our cost could be less. But we have a labor obligation, from my understanding, is that they have to, they have a priority in high-ranking, positions. So, if that's something we want to address, then it needs to be addressed in the contract. But as it is right now, the overtime goes to the higher officers first, and then it goes down the chain.
All right, council members, so once again, it's almost an hour, okay, we have a 6:30, so I'd like to do a roll call and you can make your.
6:30 yet, Council President. I have another question relative to this item.
Councilman Jackson?
I am also on, Council President. I don't know if I should be. It's the Director, Jerry Spezial.
Director, only when we ask you, I mean, there's items here, but right now we're on the budget chapter.
Okay, you got it. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Jackson?
Thank you, Council President. So I'm not going to speak on it definitively before I do further due diligence. That is not the case. The year in which employees finish their tenure, but they finish at the rate of pay, they average off, and that's the rate in which their pension is based on. But I'll do further due diligence on that. I have another question, Council President, that could be directed to the CFO. I'm not sure if these budget line items anywhere, if it's impacted by this, but I'm curious nonetheless. There's a phone calling system that is supposed to be utilized for the emergency management. I've yet to see that in our bills list. Where is that item being paid from? Where these it's normally an emergency, utilized for emergency purposes to notify the public of issues and instances that's going on. I'm not sure, Mr. Sampone, if you're familiar with what I'm talking about and what that line is customarily supposed to be utilized for. But I'm curious for budgetarily, where is that service being paid for, Council President?
So, Mr. CFO, I believe that question, you're asking that question to the CFO.
Correct.
So I believe this got brought up at the last meeting, and I believe they're paying it out of landline. It's coming out of 9382. It's telephone services.
Oh, you say OEM last time.
Wait, Councilman, don't speak out.
I would have to double check. It might be either OEM or telephone services 9382. I would have to double check. I'm not sure, but I believe it was Chief McDermott that brought it up.
We get a specific report for a report on what we're spending, where it's coming from, and what the amounts are, please.
And that report should be, it could be addressed to Councilman Jackson, but it should be given to, so every council member that's here is,
And if you can, Mr. Silva, give me a full detailed report in the last 8 years.
Okay. Council members, I just got a call from IT. It's important that we actually we're gonna do this vote and we're gonna have to open the public portion at 6:30. We have to take that first. If not, they won't be able to differentiate. I didn't really understand what Brian meant by differentiating, but let me just read it exactly.
Differentiate the two meetings. We got a special meeting now.
Yeah, but, right, correct. So Madam Clerk, roll call on item number 9.
Yes, Council President. Roll call on item number 9 for approval. Councilman Abdelaziz. Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes. Councilman Abdelaziz, yes.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes.
Councilman Jackson.
Yes.
Councilman Mendez.
Sure.
Did you say yes, Councilman?
Yes, I say yes.
Oh, thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Mims.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Rivera.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Velez?
All the items that we discussed here in this budget transfer, I had to be honest. The only two items that they clarified was the police transfer and the transfer for the recreation, why it was taken off and this and that. But I see a lot of money put in other expenses. If we're gonna be fiscal responsible, we have to make sure the administration will use that money and other expenses wisely, because the OEM robocalls come from there, and it's not being used wisely. So saying that because we need to do this, my vote is yes.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam President?
Yes.
Thank you, Council President. The votes are 8 yeses, 1 absent. Item number 9 is hereby adopted.
Thank you very much. So council members, at this time, Madam Clerk, I want you to just read once again the information for the public portion. Public portion at this time. Is there
Yes.
how many people we have?
So far, we have 5 speakers in queue.
Okay. Who is the first speaker?
He just provided some telephone numbers.
All right, so I need to know because I have Ernest Rucker in my waiting room, and that means like he was allowed to come into, he's not coming in as a phone call, he's actually being brought into the meeting. So I did not want to decline him,
Okay.
so I'm gonna make sure, because I'm in the waiting room for like half an hour.
Okay, so Council President does not want to decline Mr. Rucker. Can you allow him?
No, I don't want to do, he's been on the waiting room for half an hour.
I think this is his.
That's his number?
Yeah.
All right,
The
so,
first caller is Mr. Rucker's number as per Ryan, Council President.
okay, so very well, so then what I'm gonna do if Ernie Rucker is hearing, all right, they're gonna give you a call to put you on, because admitting you would admit you into this meeting. And so if we do that, we have to do that with everyone else.
Right.
Okay.
So should I go ahead, Council President?
Okay, yes, first speaker, please. And please, use the timer, thank you.
Yes. So the first speaker is Mr. Ernest Rucker. Please state your name and address for the records, please. Mr. Rucker, you may go ahead.
Okay, should I,
Years.
Please on now.
Ernie, you there, can you
Can you
hear
hear
us?
me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I think. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm calling in respect to Dave Gilmore, Director of Home Improvement. I've known this guy for 50 years. He has worked as an executive director, a director in community development. He's worked for IBM Aerospace, and he has never had a record or a stain on his record for any sexual harassment ever in his life. You don't become 68 years old and become a predator. I believe this whole situation is a total setup, and it needs to be cleared up and it needs to be investigated. There are members of the administration that have charges on them right now that have never been suspended. They've never been terminated. You have one in legals. You have a couple, I believe, in the Board of Public Works. This is a sham, and the administration needs to correct this and correct it now. This mayor has lost the faith of the black community on so many issues. It's pathetic. This administration took and received 90% of the black population's vote and has run for mayor 3.5 years ago. We have not seen any return. The only returns we see are those people from Hudson County and other political supporters that support the mayor, but yet he keeps coming after black employees. This is becoming an issue. This is becoming a problem. If the administration is going to actively go to war with the black community, we are going to have to go to war with him. This is not an election that he's just running for mayor. We know he's running for Congress.
as we speak, he's trying to get the numbers, and he's destroying the faith that the black community had in him when they gave them 90% voting power to be elected. I'm going to put the mayor on notice. If we have to boycott the mayor in this next election, we will begin to do that organizing to send a very clear message. We're not going to be treated this way. Thank you, Council President, for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rucker. Next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Council President, the next speaker has been queued up. Thank you.
Who's the next speaker, please, the name?
It's a phone number, it's 973-626-5995. Ryan said they're not able to get the names.
So they have to put the name for the record.
Yeah, when they come on, they put the names on the record.
Oh,
Next speaker, please state your name.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name and address.
It's Raquel, and I can't state my address because things have been happening to my car since I've been very vocal.
Raquel Amador?
Riverside, Fourth Ward.
Okay.
Fourth Ward, Riverside.
Okay.
The last meeting. Who do I honestly have to speak to about our roads? Have we driven down Madison Ave? Have we seen how it's turning into a river street, all bumpy? Who's in charge of our traffic lights? How much would it cost to get a traffic study of the entire city of Paterson? Why, when I'm driving down Broadway, one light turns green and then we're all stopping because the other light is still red and we're backing up into an intersection? Shouldn't all the lights be turning green to go? Wouldn't that make more sense? Rosa Parks Boulevard, there's a portion of it that I don't understand how that's a two-way or why there's even street parking right there. Because you have to dig it, and 2 cars don't fit down it. Do these people live in Paterson? Do these people honestly live in Paterson? Are we not driving through it? Why am I calling on Mims? Why am I calling on Cotton? Why am I calling Jackson, Velez, Mendez, or even you to have street lights turned on? Who's in charge of that? What department? What company? Who do I have to go and be a Karen to and start hounding? We are a first-class city. We have amazing groups of people working for the betterment of Paterson. The little things like this start adding up. Little things like this mess with our quality of life. Why is it that people don't clean up in front of their houses anymore? I know you guys remember growing up, your grandmother, your mother, your tia, your abuela, everybody in their family used to sleep outside because that's where we live. Why don't we do that anymore? Oh, because you're a renter? Come on now. And not for nothing, Gilmore, I think I violated Gilmore more with my mouth and for the simple fact that I curse and he's an elder. To have this come up, like, really? This is what we're doing now? Back and forth? We can't do this. We're a first-class city by title. Now let's start acting like one. I found the meeting for the zoning and the planning board. I will be there. They will get to know me because if you guys can't get me my legal extortion for parking, trees, and gardens, I'm going to go to the next person and get them. We have to do better. We have to do better. We really, really do. 2022 is coming, and I don't know. I'm losing faith. You guys approved Butler Street to be a one-way. It's been weeks. Why is it taking so long? The light on River Street, Straight Street, and Lafayette. Still a 4 Mississippi turn, and now we're giving out tickets. But yeah, I can't get a cop next to Alexander Hamilton Academy to give out tickets to the illegal left turners. We can't get cop or bus lane painted by school too, where all the autistic kids are let out. Have we seen the videos of these school buses parking the way they're parking to let kids on and off? Why are these vehicles passing inspection with their backfiring mufflers? We don't need that in the hood. We already deal with enough shootings to have them driving by and have us thinking it's something else. We need our abuelas back. We need the village where if my neighbor saw me doing something, they could pull my ear and let my mother know what was happening.
Council President, just to let the record reflect that they get caught off at 3 minutes. It's not us.
Okay, Ms. Amador, if you're still hearing, I do not have control of the public portion. It is timed at 3 minutes. But everything is noted what you stated, Madam BA. I hope that notes were taken. A lot of what she's saying is correct.
Yeah.
And something I will say, Councilwoman Cotton, is it my understanding that after, the ordinance, it takes 20 days after, so once we approve it, first reading, second, then you approve, it does take.
It does take 21 days. I still got Keene and I still got Keene and Rosa Parks. I still got Rosa Parks Boulevard on one side. I still got Butler Street. It's a lot of streets that have not been done yet.
That's so they understand that it's not, as soon as we vote on it, the action doesn't happen till 21 days after. So that is something that, now right now, we're not gonna address right now, Councilman Velez, because I know you're the chair of DPW, but I think that's something that definitely with, our director of DPW and our chair, we could definitely address, to have an answer for our constituents. Madam Clerk, next speaker, please, and please don't state your number. Okay, just, they'll put their name and address for the record. Next speaker,
please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, this is Dave Gill. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First of all, I'd like to say my condolences to the Grady family and also on the passing of Bishop Tutu as well. May they rest in peace. I want to accept the record. Well, I can't set it straight, but I can put on the record unequivocally that my rights have been violated yet again. False allegations were made against me. I was not notified in terms of the process for preparing, review, and responding to those said allegations. When I was first contacted by the city retained attorney, I told them, contact my lawyer. Just like any other learned person that watches TV, CSI, any television show, when you say lawyer, they can't talk to you anymore. I put them in contact with my lawyer. The lawyer misrepresented. I was sent a threatening letter through management, and they fired that lawyer. They put another lawyer on and never contacted me to respond to any of these allegations until I heard I was suspended without pay indefinitely pending termination. So I don't understand, again, violating my rights, no due process or anything related to this. And as was stated earlier, other individuals, one right out of the legal department, never addressed, never suspended for having allegedly grabbed one of the clerks up in the courthouse in the private area. People at DPW, settlements have been reached. Nobody suspended or threatened to fire. I look again and say, all these retaliatory measures taken against me because I wouldn't sign illegal documents. I was in the way for illegal conversions. I would not sign demolition orders for when I was in control of the demolition. As everybody knows, I went to Trenton, came back with the package, explained it at the council, what the low interest funds were dedicated for. I was in control of demolition. If I was derelict in my duty, then why wasn't I admonished or brought up on charges of insubordination for that? They signed off on all this demolition illegally, no paperwork, and wanted me to do it, and I wouldn't do it. Now I'm being subject to all these other made up and trumped up charges. On the same day, I picked up petitions to run for mayor. Now, I think that anybody can see this is a conspiracy to sully my name in order to make me less attractive as a candidate. But I wasn't really going to. I really wasn't going to run. But I think I might have to run now so I can be on every venue that the mayor is at and asking these questions of all these illegalities that are going on. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'm certainly thinking about it. But in the meantime, I'm supporting Mike Jackson. All they have to do is ask me or talk to me and sit down and have a conversation as to what was going on, and I would have responded. But to just go out and suspend me without pay for 2-3 days before Christmas and continue this retaliatory action does nothing more than feed the lawsuit that I already have.
Okay, so once again, Mr. Gilmore, you were cut off only because that's the time, but I'm really not gonna say much, but only one thing, and this is gonna go to Corporation Counsel, to the VA. I don't know that anyone in the council is privy to what exactly is going on. I can tell you, put it on record, I am not fully aware of what's going on and all that was said today. But I will put something on record because it's something that's been bothering me for quite some time. There have been individuals that are currently working that we've had to pay lawsuits on, and I've never seen any actions taken care of. No action taken in terms of suspensions, no pay, and even, terminations. And so that right there has raised another flag, and I'm going to leave it at that. So we're not going to have a full discussion, but I wanted to put that on record because that is alarming and it is concerning, because we all have to be the ones to approve those lawsuits when they come before us, when it has to do with the administration not taking the certain steps that were necessary to cover the city. Next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Next speaker, please state your name and address for the record.
Madam Clerk, how many more are on queue?
We have 2 more on queue and 1 voice message
Okay.
after this one that I just called.
This is Wahida Muhammad.
Go ahead, Ms.
Can you
Muhammad.
hear me? Yes. With God's name, good evening. I am really on the same page with you, Council President and Ernie Rucker, when it comes to Dave Gilmore. I really am I cannot believe that the mayor and his administration would stoop that low to go after this man and to try to destroy his reputation, and doing it just because you think you can. And if this community sits back and allows you to do this, we can never recover from being under such foolishness, because if you get away with this, then it is no kind of way that we will be able to say to our children that there is justice in this city, because that's horrible. I cannot believe it, and I'm so angry that I wasn't able to come there tonight, because this has to stop. And Mayor, wherever you are, and whoever is doing this foolishness, you best to realize that this community is not going to sit by and just say this can happen, because it's not. The other thing I want to know is why is it that the young man in DPW and everybody else that from what I understand, that was promoted, was able to get a $1,500 raise, but since this young man that looks like me have not been able or been allowed to get that money because of what? Because you think you can do anything to us and we're just going to play dead. This has to stop. And you all sitting there on that council, you have to raise your voices and not just sit back and let things happen, because it makes me think that, okay, you don't care about him, what would you care about in the rest of us? This has to stop. Now, putting you on notice, Mayor, we're not playing. This has to stop. Thank you.
Next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Excuse me. Good evening, council members. My name is Mike Lytell. I live at 463 Preakness Ave. The first thing I'd like to say is that I've known Dave Gilmore for quite some time, and whoever's behind all this rhetoric and all this nonsense needs to really put it to rest. A lot of people don't know that my grandfather knew the Gilmore family. So when he used to tell us stories about the Gilmore family, we remember. Dave Gilmore has always had a polite attitude. He's experienced, he's knowledgeable. So I don't know who's doing all this rhetoric behind the scenes, but it really has to stop because it sends a bad message to the rest of the state because everybody's watching that we were trying to get somebody. So I don't know who's behind it all and what's going on, but it really, really needs to stop because that's not how we pull our city together. We have to pull our city together and everybody has to be on the same page. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Next speaker.
Madam Clerk, the next speaker is a voice.
No, one more. This next speaker and then the voice message, Council President.
Next speaker, please.
Council President, Ryan will now play the voice message. The speaker prior to the voice message has been lost, so he's trying to retrieve that call.
Please play the. Can't hear anything.
I'm Pastor Williamson, and Pastor Williams said, yeah, just calling. I don't know what's going on in this city anymore. I really don't. Can you please do something about it with all these killings and all these murders and all these little babies that's dying out here? What are we going to do about it, council people? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Can you please do something, please? I would highly appreciate it. I've been in this city for 44 years and never seen something so horrible in my life like this. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. Only want points to get elected and sit in that seat and do nothing but collect a paycheck. Yes. If this wasn't live, I would be there right now. Pastor Williams, 311 North 9th Street, Paterson, New Jersey. 311 North 9th, Paterson, New Jersey. Pastor Williams.
Thank you.
Next, I'm sorry.
Madam Clerk, just for future reference, when it comes to voicemails, it is my understanding of the corporate council that any correspondence. Hello?
Yes, I'm here, Council President.
Okay. Do we have somebody on the line?
Yes, apparently Ryan has a caller on the line, yes.
Okay, state the name and
Hello?
Name and address for the record. Please state this. Okay. Okay, so there's the bad connection. So Madam Clerk, just for future, any correspondence that comes through voicemail must be transcribed by clerk.
Yes.
Okay, and it's submitted as correspondence. It does not need to be played.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to close the public portion and a second to close the public portion of today's closeout meeting? Roll call.
Motion to close the public portion. Roll call, Councilman Abdelaziz.
Yes.
Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes.
Councilman Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before I vote, just some of the public that made commentary. I would like to say, you know, I'm not sure how and where that we become fed up, but it's obvious this mayor has no concern over what happens within the community, especially within the African American community that has rendered a great deal of support. His actions have shown so his entire tenure. From the moment he barricaded City Hall after Jameek Lowry was murdered and people came into City Hall to show their concerns. And now the repetitive, negligent treatment. You know, Deborah Hannibal, who's been a phenomenal employee, who has never in her 30-year career, who has a master's degree, who has a great deal of experience, has never been written up in her entire career, was written up 3 times in the last year that she was here. And it's part of the reason why she decided to end her tenure. What's happening with Dave Gilmore, and I don't think people understood that, you know, it's a matter of waking a sleeping giant. You know, sometimes they take your silence as a weakness and or your kindness for weakness, but now you've managed to allow him a platform to be able to speak freely, not only about, you know, some of the things that's happening now, but all of the misconduct that's been taking place in that department for quite some time. You know, you have, I'm still waiting to see the new outline, Council President and Council colleagues, for this position of Chief of Staff. You know, because there was an excuse made the last time when there was a substantial salary decrease that, well, you know, the duties and responsibilities have changed greatly. And I, someone previous was managing the negotiations with DCA and so on and so forth. So now this person that's making, you know, a substantial amount of money, close to $100,000, has never shown up at one council meeting, has never outlined what is that exactly is the job responsibilities, and or we're just paying someone to secretly run the mayor's campaign for Congress. And every single one of you council members are sitting here quietly and not taking issue with this. It's showing that, you know, there's a lack of concern for the community's tax dollars and the best interest of what's happening within our community. So, you know, what's happening with Mr. Gilmore is an example of the derelict treatment that somehow specifically, you know, is being outlined for African Americans. And if you're black and on the payroll, you're not qualified enough, regardless of your qualifications. And it was the same example with Milton Robinson, who had not only had a college degree, but a licensed architect, licensed engineer, certified planner, certified zoning officer, who was paid half of what they brought in a non-resident, and who had absolutely no credentials, including a college degree. And it's not specifically outlined just for black employees, but the Hispanic employees are being treated the same way. You know, within the BA's office, the young lady had to file a lawsuit just to be treated equally, you know, and because she's a homegrown Paterson person, a Latina who grew up in this community, who obviously had to, you know, show her worth by hiring an attorney. So, council members, there's a responsibility here that's laid on your chest, and as each of us sit here quietly, it speaks volumes on where you stand in representation for the people who put you in the position. With that being said, Madam Clerk, never quietly will I go. I'm gonna have to come up with some type of catchy catchphrase, some type of poetic catchphrase that would resonate you. But my hope.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Mendez?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So let me just make a quick comment before my vote, Madam Clerk. In terms of Dave Gilmore, it's really shameful what happened with Dave Gilmore. You know, he's been proving how professional he's been since he's been in the city, and his record speaks for itself. But there's been a serious allegation tonight here. Mr. Dave Gilmore mentioned, you know, refusing to sign to those illegal conversion, illegal demolition, paper documents that are not in order. That's a serious allegation. And the sad part of all of this is that we as a taxpayer, we are the one that are going to end up into pay for this administration mistake. At the end of this administration, our taxpayer, we're gonna end up into pay millions of dollars for those mistakes, for those political retaliation. And he used to do this. And it's a shame. It's really a shame. And I don't know what can we do at the council. I'm not gonna be quiet about this. We should have, there's gotta be some type of meeting. Corporation council need to advise us because those serious allegations, they're in public and we must take action. I don't know, I have no knowledge about what's going on. But as an elected official, I need to get to the bottom of this because I refuse to sit here and conduct business and looking at this administration, this mayor doing this kind of thing. He's running scared. You know, he's running an elections very scared. And I know every time he sees that somebody's a threat, he go after that person. Personally, he go after his family. And that's what he's been doing. And we all know all this sentiment. And the most uncomfortable part is that this council had nothing to do with his decision, with his action. But at the settlement time, the lawyer come in front of the council, asking us to do a settlement. I refuse to do that, and I refuse to sit over here. And we should take Dave Gilmore case as a case study, because we all know what's going on. We all remember the play that didn't have any CEO, and Dave Gilmore took action and did his job, and the mayor went over Dave Gilmore's head. And everybody knows that. This administration has to be investigated. I hope and I pray that somebody come into the city and investigate this administration, because we as a taxpayer, we are the one paying the price for those mistakes. And Dave, I know you don't like Dave, you watching the meeting. I'm just gonna give you a new date. You know that I submitted my petition to run for mayor formally. They've been following me since day one, way before Dave. So be ready and get ready, because that's the way this mayor works. He go after you, he go after your family. But I want to thank you for not being quiet and use this minute to express yourself. And I'm gonna be there behind you 1,000%. What you mentioned, illegal document, refuse to sign an illegal document. We're in government. That's illegal. That's corruption 101.
Council members, please. We're
I just, do apologize, Madam President. I went over my 2 minutes. But this is something that, Madam President, I don't know how can we get to the bottom of this, but I know that you feel the same way I feel. I think that we should not say, okay, let's continue to move forward. Something has to be done, and at least as an elected official that will respond to the people, we should know what's going on. Because that lawsuit that is gonna come is gonna be also gonna have to sit down and say yes or no for the settlement. My vote is yes, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Mims?
So I must agree with the sentiments of my colleagues and even to recent Councilman Mendez. I want to make a request to the administration. As Council President has said, I'm not really privy to the details of what the situation is with Director Gilmore. But I think it's owed to the council or even the legal committee a briefing on something, because we don't really have any details. Me personally don't like to be put in the middle of something without knowing anything. We have no information. We know that he's not currently on the payroll, not sure why, not sure the details of what happened. But I think it's owed to this council as the legislative body that there is some type of briefing or information that's provided, even if it's on a high level, that we will get details on that. I agree with Raquel, who called in. I was going to make that mention, and I see Director Rodriguez is on. There are many items that have been approved by this council, 4-way stop signs on 11th and 37th, on 8th Ave, 9th Ave, and so many others. And it still has not been placed. It's way over the 20-day threshold. So I would like to get an update, Madam BA, on what's going on with that. I do agree as well. There should be an overall study all over the city for lights that are out, because we have a lot of lights out. And then Madison Ave, I think just to our engineer, give it to Mr. Fred McGrone in the engineering department that we have now, to go and do an oversight, not just on Madison Ave, but every street that has been ripped up by public service, because by law, when they rip up a street, they are supposed to replace it the way it was originally. And that is not taking place, and we need to bill public service for what they have not done or the egregious work that's being done in the city of Paterson. So I would like to put that on record, Madam BA, that we would take a ride throughout the city. The engineers will ride out, or and DPW, whoever would be responsible for doing that, and they will identify every one of those streets that have been ripped up and repaved, but it looks like the Dukes of Hazzard in the city, and charge public service for every one of those streets. Also, I want to put on record when it comes to, and I didn't go into it before, but it wasn't me voting against the transfer, because I understand that we're in the times of COVID. Sometimes when there are unanswered questions or things that needs clarification, then sometimes, I found with this administration, voting yes does not give you answers. So you have to vote no to get clarity or to get understanding. And the way to avoid that, and I'll put it back on record to our BA, our CFO, and to the mayor, as I know he's listening, that with more communication and being more proactive with this council, there will be more of support that can be given if that is done. And so I'm asking and putting it back on the record when it comes to these type of concerns, when money is being transferred, we should not be noticed at the 9th hour on the day of a vote, or wait until it gets voted down to find out this is what the process was, this is why it did not happen. It is owed to every one of the council members a clear explanation of what is happening, why it's not taking place, and that is your fiduciary responsibility to provide that to the council. So I'm putting that on the record. With that stated, thank you to everyone that called in on tonight with your concerns and your issues, and those that were not able to call in. I pray that you're able to call in the next time. Madam Clerk, my vote is yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Rivera?
To address, I want to ask the BA for a response later on, but I want to put the question on the floor now. Did we ever hire the company to assess all the roads and give it a grading, a number, basically assign a number based on condition? That way, when we put the capital plan together, we're able to make an informed decision on which road should be done first. Two, I asked Fred McGrun, and I think I spoke to Corporation Council also, to look into maybe the possibility, we have to discuss it with the council, of doing the sidewalks at the same time we do the roads, like some other towns do. Because I noticed that although it's a responsibility of the homeowner, there is towns that through the bond ordinance, they actually do the sidewalks at the same time as they do the roads. We finish doing roads and it still looks bad out there. So I think we gotta do things a little differently. That's what I got elected to do. Now, every council member might have his own reasons of how to vote a certain way, but this budget transfer that we voted on today was actually discussed in workshop. So, whoever wants to vote a certain way for a transfer, that's on you as a council colleague, as a council member. That is your responsibility. But I just don't like the way a lot of these meetings go, the things that are discussed. I think that hopefully in the new year, we become more productive as a council. And, a lot of the discussions, I know in the past, a lot of the discussions used to take place during the regular meetings also because the workshop was not televised. Well, that's not the case. The workshops are televised. So if you need to say something so the residents could hear, you could say it during the workshop also. Madam Clerk, my vote is yes.
Councilman Velez?
Thank you, thank you, Madam Clerk. Let me address quickly, Mrs. Raquel Amador, every concern that you have brought up, not in this meeting, in the past meeting, have been put forward in the committee meetings, especially when it comes up to street lighting, Madison Avenue, why it looks like that, not shifting the problem to the right place, but the right place and the condition of Madison Avenue is a county road. We having conversation with them to expedite the whole resurface of Madison Avenue. Unfortunately, winter time, the awful company stopped working, and they had to stop working. Even the county gave them a day to stop working on November 15, but they went a little bit ahead because the weather permitted it. But at the same time, they will finalize all that roads that PCG opened. Our engineering department always update us what is the process since the PCG contract stepped in. So Billy is listening, Director Rodriguez listening to us to please have a detailed scope of work with phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 into the end and send it to all the councilmen. So just in case a constituent asks something, at least they have a detail and they can respond back regarding how the process is. Regarding the signs, I know Ruby Cotton, I mentioned that a lot of signs and ordinance will be in place. As we know, this department is understaffing the traffic division. We cannot pour cement in the middle of the winter. We cannot paint in the middle of the winter. So we need to veer into the weather, catch up a little bit and permit those work to perform. I'm waiting for streets in the Fifth Ward, but I know the process. So I just want you to know that we on top of it as a committee chair. We are diligent to make sure that everything is put in place. Regarding the legal matters in the city of Paterson, listen, let me tell you something. It's out of control. I'm not going to mention what case or not case. The legal matters in the city of Paterson are out of control since this administration took over. It is out of control, and it's not a work and healthy environment for any employee of the city of Paterson. And it is not a healthy work environment for the city of Paterson. So you imagine what our constituent could receive in service. It's a lot of work to do, but we need to be fair across the board. The last speaker, Reverend Williams, he spoke about the quality of life, the killing, and other things. And he mentioned, what are we doing? So let me tell you, Mr. Reverend Williams, we have put in place in this 4 years ordinance and amended ordinance to address quality of life. We're not cops, we're not law enforcement, we're not administration. We cannot tell the officers out there, you need to do this, because then I'm going to be ending losing my seat here, because if they sign a grievance against us, is a problem. So the administration has a tool. The VA is there, have the tools to let them know that we put in place ordinance and amended ordinance that address quality of life, and not only that, the crime of the city of Paterson. It went out of hands because probably the agenda of this administration is another one. But I'm not going to debate that here now. I think that we have time for that. But ladies and gentlemen, one thing I have to bring forward. If you look at the article, last but not least, but if you look at article that came on the NewJersey.com on December 24, should historic but hazard Paterson building be preserved or demolished? This is the same building that they honor a CO. Now the owner of the building saying that needed to demolish it because it's unsafe. So Dave Gilmer was right. So I leave it for you guys. So saying that, let's move forward. My vote is yes.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam President.
Sorry, my vote is yes.
Thank you, Council President. The votes are 8 yeses, 1 absent. Public portion is hereby closed.
Okay. I'd like to see back number 8.
Did you say item number 8, Council President?
Yes. Please read into the record.
Item number 8 is resolution to approve a corrective action plan in response to an audit received for the 2020 fiscal years of finance resolution 21:666.
A motion?
Let's move it for discussion.
Do I have a second? Moved by Councilman Velez and second by Councilman Rivera. Discussion.
Council President, as I requested the last time to remove it for discussion in committee, I did my diligence to bring forward what was the finding of the recycling tonnage situation on our committee. My main concern, and I just want to ask this question, and I just want to put on the record this question to the BA, if it's through the chair, to the BA. Madam BA, the audit, that's the audit that we're talking about, no?
Yes.
Correct. This is the audit was discussed with every director of the department of the city of Paterson when it comes up to finding and correction, or you just did the finding, you do the correction, and no discussion with them?
I'll turn that over to the CFO. We do reach out to the directors, and I'll let him speak to I think you're referring to the tonnage grant in particular?
Yes, correct.
Yep.
What was that last time you spoke about that specific audit and that tonnage and recycling situation?
When did I speak to him? I spoke to him, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
2 or 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, I spoke to the department head, Billy Rodriguez.
It was after my committee meeting?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure when your committee meeting was.
Director Bailey is here. I don't know if that's Director Bailey. That's and that was in the last committee meeting. I know you was on vacation for a couple of days.
Actually, we had a conversation about going over the audit. We never got into detail on it. I asked him I was going to be on vacation of the following day that we talked. I asked him to reach out to Manny the following week. I don't know if that meeting happened. Like I said, I've been on vacation and sick. So as far as getting into detail, I haven't gotten into detail with the CFO as of yet.
All right, thank you, Council President. The reason I put it forward is because I did my diligence to make sure that the committee was aware of the audit report and the correction action that they're supposed to take action on 2022. And we want to make sure that we're not staffing something that they're not going to do. So I'm not saying the DPW division, I'm talking about the administration like that.
Thank you very much, Councilman Velez. Councilman Rivera.
Good point, Councilman Velez, but as you know, this is the plan. It doesn't state that it was corrected. It says that it will be corrected in 2022. So this finding is in regards to expenditures of the grant. They haven't spent any money, and even at the start of the year, doesn't mean that the grant will be charged also right away. So you brought up a great point. It's going to force the administration to have that meeting with the DPW director. So great observation. But again, it does say here that it will be corrected for calendar year 2022.
Thank you very much for that clarification, Councilman Rivera. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Yes, Council President, roll call on item number 8, resolution to approve a corrective action plan in response to an audit received for the 2020 fiscal year. Resolution 21666, Councilman Abdelaziz.
Yes.
Councilwoman Cotton.
Thank you, thank you, Madam Clerk, for the correction action plan. I have gone through it all. And I see most of the stuff is gonna be corrected for coming year of 2022. Hopefully that, no, not hopefully, for 2022, that we're gonna see, some of the stuff I knew would happen, especially with the SIDS. I knew some of the stuff that happened with the anti-violence, grant money that was out there. So for 2022, they're gonna make sure that the corrected action plan will be in place for that. So Madam Clerk, with that being said, I also have been looking at some of the grant money that have been coming in, and also looking at the money coming into from DCA. So with that being said, Madam Clerk, My vote is yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Jackson? Councilman Jackson?
I'm just reviewing this document a little bit further. And, part of my concern is that something as very simplistic as following instructions on how policies and procedures implementation. It says clearly method of implementation. Method of implementation. It doesn't say in this line item when is this method planned to be implemented, but it says method of implementation. And it says in each one of the lines, it says it will be corrected by calendar year 2022. In the end of the document, it says completion date of implementation, which there again is just very repetitive. It just talks about the detail, payment of detail, the pursuit of detail on how things are being implemented. It should be the creative action plan approved by the council does not outline the method of implementation. It talks about what the council probably approved, but yet again, just another minor oversight of detail that just talks to the failure of this administration. And I'm not going to just go on about this because obviously the failures do not need to be pointed out by myself. It's obvious and clear when you ride around through the community of these failures. But just wanted to point that out. As I've been extremely judgmental and critical from the beginning, it was all for good reason. I think, and I challenge anyone here, as people, spew around rhetoric about me being incorrect, but on every single item I made, I've taken issue with, I've been absolutely correct on. And, with that being said, I'm not going to support this corrective action plan because I don't have faith that it's going to be implemented to its entirety because certain members of the administration won't be allowed to do the jobs that they've been sought after to do. And that example shows clearly with Director Gilmore and how his production has been diminished because his division was decreased and his inspectors was taken from him. And it's the same type of activity that's going on throughout. I'm getting the same kinds of complaints from members of the division of DPW and how these gentlemen are asked to work extensively without being compensated properly. And I don't have faith that the implementation of this plan is going to be thoroughly done. So, Madam Clerk, my vote is no.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Mendez?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So before I vote, just a quick comment on that. I definitely really agree with you, Councilman Jackson. I reviewed the document, another document. We voted based on the hope that this administration put in place those corrective action for the following year, which in fact, some of the people know how I feel and the loss of hope that I have from this administration. So without any just comment, my vote is no on this item. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councilman Mendez. Councilwoman Mims?
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Rivera?
So once again, by law, the law requires that the administration puts together a corrective action plan. Regardless of how I feel of their ability to implement this or not, it is our duty to approve a plan that they have submitted. Now, as a council person, every time I vote no on something, I give my reasons why. And again, point it out so you could contribute to the discussion and maybe make some amendments to this. But since I don't have anything to say, this is their plan, I'm voting yes.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Velez?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. When I look at the audit, went over it, pulled it to discussion, and the part that it troubles me was the city procedure, and then this is the Untitled Tonnage grant. The city procedure that are in place for authorized purchase of recycling service and recycling related material is not working properly as designated. So if I look at that wording that they find that, Madam DA, please, I need later on in the day, tomorrow, whatever, give me a detailed report, what they purchased, for what they purchased it, because I want to make sure that they're not using those grants to buy flowers and put it in front of City Hall when that grant is not for that. And clean communities, et cetera, we have to make sure that the funding is well invested in recycling material, bins, et cetera, for the recycling program that we have out there. And once again, we need to have a communication between the directors and this audits when it comes out, and not at the late hour trying to give the information and we didn't brought it up. So, we need to move forward in a lot of aspects of it. Hopefully they do it the right way and not be hurt at the end and returning money back for mismanaged or they didn't use it properly, and then we have a problem in the calendar year. So saying that, my vote is yes.
Thank you, Councilman. Council President.
My vote is yes.
Thank you, Council President. The votes are 6 yeses, 2 noes, 1 absent. Item number 8 is hereby adopted.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, I'm gonna take item 18. That's actually the item I wanted to take before we go into our executive session, our special meeting. Item 18.
Item number 18 is a resolution authorizing amendment number 1 to the Department of Community Development 2021-2022 one-year annual action plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the acceptance of the Home American Rescue Plan grant. It's a Community Development Resolution 21676, and this was also on the workshop agenda of December 7th.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Velez and second by Councilwoman Mims. If there isn't any questions, we do have a representative here, Mr. Rowland, on behalf of Director McKinnon. Councilman Rivera?
Was any changes made to this allocation, to this budget from the last discussion that we had?
Mr. Rowland?
Thank you, Madam President, and to the entire council, to Madam BA administration, and to Madam Clerk. There was nothing new that was added. If I may, Councilman Flavio, we did respond to your questions that was submitted on December 8th, both electronically and a tangible remark was provided through City Clerk to all of the council representatives. So when you say, was there anything new, what I would like you to understand is we did answer the questions that were presented on the December 7th meeting.
All right, so, Mr. Savallo, just for the public, what happened to my phone about a month ago?
Your phone?
Hold on a minute. So this is what I'm trying to do here. We have a finance committee. I asked for this to be brought back to finance, right? Just you sending a response doesn't just resolve the issue.
Councilman Rivera, my apologies. It was brought back to finance. You were not there.
Okay, what day was this?
It was the next following the 14th. You were not in finance.
Okay, so for the benefit of the discussion, why do we have the need to hire additional staff? You see the 10% and the 5% that you utilize in an admin? You indicated in the previous meetings that you needed to hire additional staff, and I'm not in favor of that. So what is the rationale behind it?
So, Councilman, that 15% is for professional services, and it is to administer the actual entire allocation. It may require new program monitors. It may, require a consultant. That has not been laid out yet, but based on her guidelines, we are allowed, in this case, not 10%, but the 15% with this grant.
Right, and you have 10 and 5, it's 15.
Yes.
The question that I had is, why not throw this money into more services instead of using it for administration? Just because they allow you to hire or use 15% for administration doesn't mean that you have to.
So Councilman, there is a very specific outline to this grant. It is both, home funds, which we already administer home funds, but it is much bigger. It is actually 4 times, the allocation, and it's using the home model, and the difference is it's using some ESG, which stands for Emergency Solutions Grant, and it's using the categories of the Kenny-Vinto Act, which defines homelessness and who can benefit from these projects. So it's very specific and laid out. So it's not for example, it's not for first home time buyers. It's not for rehab. It's not for homeless prevention or rapid rehousing. It is very detailed on how we are allowed to use these funds. It's very specific.
Okay, one last thing then. What's gonna happen if we hire additional staff? Is this grant gonna be renewed on a yearly basis?
I believe the grant has a lifespan. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's between 5 and 8 years. And I apologize. I can certainly report back on the specific timeline. But what would happen is if we had to, a consultant is hired based on the project, and if it was staff, it would be based on the length of the grant.
But we need to understand what are you doing with this administrative cost if you're gonna hire staff and consultant. It's a big difference.
I understand that, Councilman, but that would come before the council body at that given time.
When have hiring a staff come to before the council? It has never. It doesn't come before the council. It would not come before the council. If we approve, if this comes in and we have a budget already established, and we don't vote on, once you have this grant in place and you have the admin dollars set up, you could proceed with the hiring. It doesn't come before the council.
Correct, Councilman. What comes before the council?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry, Councilman. What would come before the council through an RFP would be if we were going out to get professional services or a consultant, that would come before the council.
If you're gonna hire staff, it will not come before the council.
I understood, Councilman.
The issue that I'm having.
I understand.
Council President.
Council President, you're muted.
I'm sorry, my apologies. I said it's Councilwoman Cotton.
Right. Okay. This is for a question for Dennis. My understanding is, I'm not on community development, but my understanding is that the administrative cost is for the staff that you already have there in place. Is that my understanding? Now, this is American Rescue Plan. This is not yearly money that you're gonna be getting. My understanding when Barbara was here last time, this was a one-time money that's coming down. And my next question is, this is only one-time money coming. It's not like the other money that we're getting. This is the American Rescue money. Now, only thing I'm concerned about is tenant-based rental assistance. I mean, once this $2 million is run out, what happens after that? Who helps protect you? Who helps pay the tenants? I mean, after the $2 million. I mean, even the affordable housing piece, what I'm kind of understanding is this is for really developers to build affordable housing. That's my understanding for that part. This is to help build affordable housing. But the affordable housing tenant-based rental piece is for to help homeless. But what happens after the $2 million runs out? What happens?
Right. So, Councilwoman, this program or this application has to meet 4 activities that must benefit people who are either homeless or at risk of homeless. And in that language or those 4 categories is the development and the support of affordable housing, tenant-based rental assistance, as you stated, provision of supporting services, and the acquisition and the development of non-congregate shelter units. So again, what we would be approving is accepting the $5 million, and out of that, it's approximately $790,000 perhaps in administrative costs, which is it's not for hiring just new staff or program monitors. Again, it can be a consultant, and it's also to actually all the reporting and all of the things that we need to implement and to move the allocation forward. I'm sorry.
Okay, as I said, it's so Jack.
Yeah, one more question. The only thing I'm concerned about, Dennis, is that,
Councilwoman, 1 second.
Okay.
It's gonna repeat it again, because I see everybody raising their hands, so it's Jackson, Velez, Mendez, please.
All right, my only concern still, Dennis, is that, you have in here 5% to hire consultant, and you're correct. Once you go RFP for those consultants, that piece has to come before us. The other piece do not have to come to us before, but then we gotta make sure then that the 5% that you're gonna hire for the professional consultant do come before us. And you still didn't answer the question, what happens after the 2 million runs out? Who's gonna pay those people's rent?
Right.
So I don't understand.
It is a question that I would have to certainly report back, because I don't have the answer. But what I would say is, in accepting these funds, if it is the council's wishes, I personally believe that it is a great opportunity for not only the committee to meet, but everyone should come to the table so we can lay this out correctly and all of your concerns and questions would be adhered to. This is the beginning stages.
Thank you, Dennis. I understand what you're saying. And it's a one-time shot, correct, Dennis?
Yes.
One-time shot that we're getting $5 million. One-time shot. Make that be clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Jackson.
Thank you, Council President. Just want to remind everyone should stay muted. There's somebody who has music in the background, which is program. So, Brother Roland, I appreciate some of the answers that you've been presenting. I know you're thorough in the work that you do. I have a few questions with regard to the implementation. The first question is, it says support to support the hiring of 2 professional consultants. Now, at $265,000, I mean, it seems excessive. I know it's a lot of the 5%, but it seems excessive, especially if we're going to outline that just for 2 consultants. Are we talking about 2 consulting firms? And is there an outline on what exactly they will be tasked to take care of? And the other question that you can kind of answer both together is, what's the plan? Is there a plan already set forward for the $4.5 million? We understand we have a growing population of homeless people. Now the tents that's arising. We have a tent city developing all over the city of Paterson. So is there an outline plan already prescribed, or are we going to rely on the direction of these consultants that we're planning to hire to give direction for the $4.5 million?
So, Councilman Jackson, if I may, as a city employee for approximately 19 years, I would say to you, and in reviewing these documents to my best of my ability, HUD early on gives you some very basic instructions, and even in their document, which I hope that all of you were able to review, and additional information and guidance to come. We in our office have to get on webinars, and we have to continue to get educated. So in hiring a consultant or more than one consultant, I believe that certainly through the council committee, that could be a concern that could be addressed and answered through our office. I personally don't, have that answer tonight. But your concern is duly noted. I know through council clerk, she will definitely, any questions will get it to our office, but I as well am jotting down some of these questions so I can report back to my director and make sure that we can address them accordingly.
Sorry. While you're at it, because I think this is very important. it doesn't make sense to have an official document be presented to the council to be voted on that clearly says, the intent is to hire 2 consultants, and we don't know if that is in fact the case. The other thing is, I would like to have an outline of what is the plan for the 10% of the other 10% portion, and what does that exactly look like? Are we, how many employees are we planning to hire, and what capacity? It's $500,000 designated for that, and also, lastly, I guess you can send. There is a report to be sent. Specifically, what is the plan for this $4.5 million? Like, do we have a plan already? Is it something that we sought after this money to implement a thought or a possible plan, or are we just winging it and we're going to come up with some things that's actually, later on proven to not be as impactful? Because if that is the case, then this council should have an opportunity, Council President, to weigh in on what the concerns are of the community, because obviously this administration really has lost touch or grasp what these issues and concerns are.
Councilman Jackson, if I may, the information and the guidance is provided to us by HUD. They're basically giving us the framework. They provide some additional guidance, and to be quite honest with you, it sounds more like sound bites. If I share with you that what we can use this money for is to manufacture housing or single room occupancies or permanent supportive housing, we can acquire and rehabilitate facilities such as nursing homes, residential treatments, correctional facilities. So there is language that nor this administration, with all due respect, nor my office, I'm going to use the term, we throw punches in the air. We're very intentional. This is federal guidelines that we have to adhere to. That's why we need, in many cases, consultants that have expertise in this. But again, I would invite the entire council, starting with the council committee, to facilitate a meeting where we can sort of lay this out and we can hear the wishes of each and every council person.
So very quickly, Council President, just to wrap, Brother Roland, I truly appreciate the clarity. And I think it was revealed in the beginning when you laid out the 4 variances of the elements of what we can do. But to that point, in Newark, where they specifically understand the elements of their community, when they receive these types of funding, they hit the ground running and they become the first, to implement things like a homeless shelter, where they've been able to provide a great deal of campsites for homeless, and also for these areas for COVID rehabilitation, where people can actually be isolated, in the circumstances of COVID. I'm not saying this is what that's for. What I'm saying is, as we're voting to accept these funds, is there now, and you don't have to answer now because I don't want to prolong this discussion, but it's obvious that we now are going to lean back on what HUD is recommending as opposed to what specifically our community needs. We know what the community needs here, and the administration should know. We all collectively should be able to come up with something that's going to impact and help our community versus just what the mayor or whomever, one other person would like to have seen, and it doesn't help the community in the overall capacity. I appreciate that, Brother Ron. I'll double back with you offline as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Velez, Councilman Velez.
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Dennis Rowland, I'm not going to put in question your expertise as the work that you do, especially when you used to work in the relocation office. You did a pretty job there. So I know that you were well instructed how to do things, especially with federal government money. But dividing the subject of the $4.5 million and dividing it in 2, one creates a concern and the other one creates more needs. For example, the other number 3, the $2.5 million, that says as housing for new permanent rental housing unit replacing existing permanent rental housing unit for chronically homeless individuals. Anyone that are right now in this state, in this condition, could become homeless, having a apartment and they didn't pay the rent, and now when they remove all this moratorium, they probably could have become homeless. But shifting $2.5 million to new permanent rental units, I have to be a little bit careful that they don't shift that money to people that already benefit from tax credit projects. And what we're talking about there is a housing development on the English Stadium side that probably the administration could come there, hey, we got that money, we could shift it over there because we're gonna construct new rental units. And we wanna make sure that money don't go to any project that already have benefit from tax credit. Especially in the past, we didn't shift money to that type of projects that they was doing in Hinckley Stadium. In New York City, they received the same funding, American Rescue Plan money. And the first thing they did is create a program that New Yorkers could apply for rent relief. Those people that was behind their rent. I don't think that we need a study. We need an application to put it out there for people who say, listen, you can apply before you become homeless and catch up with your rent, catch up with, and the state DCA has the same application, but they're not responding to the people applying. So frame and comes with instruction. I believe I would like to see all those work frame and instruction to see if we could put a program that address those individuals that are right now in jeopardizing to an eviction or whatever like that, because the word homeless could be somebody that is right now in a nice, beautiful apartment, but it could be homeless tomorrow when those courts start opening and to entertaining those eviction. And I know the state is trying to send letters to let them know that they're in the process of something, but how long a landlord could hold in this situation? Programs that what we need, $63 million still waiting in the bank to be expended, okay? And we still don't see a program from that money that we receive directly to the city. Now we have money coming from American Rescue Plan for the Division of Community Development, and there's not a plan to say we need to relieve those tenants, we need to relieve those business owners, we need to relieve those that are behind because the pandemic. So that's the part that if I look at the wording on both of them and I split it around, some of them could be diverted to any people that really already joined the tax credit benefit, and some of them probably could be diverted to those individuals that really are struggling out there. So,
Councilman, if I may, Council President. So the councilman said a lot. So the city of Paterson, through the Department of Community Development, has received through the CARES Act funds for COVID for rental assistance, where we have paid up to 12 months of rental assistance for people who have been infected or affected through COVID in terms of back rent. These funds cannot be used for that. Also, you spoke about rental assistance to courts and the moratorium. This is new. And this is totally separate from those programs that are in the city of Paterson, and we have had an impact in providing some rental assistance to our residents of the city of Paterson. As one of the program monitors of community development, I can share with you firsthand that there are two organizations in the city that have a great impact and are touching the community. Perhaps we're not reaching everyone, but we do have funds that have been earmarked and allocated for back rent or rental assistance through COVID. I just wanted to share that. Again, I think this is a good opportunity through either the council committee meeting with the council chair of our community development and some of the colleagues to sit, we would love to hear your concerns, but we need to be mindful that we have to be very intentional. It's not a suggestion. It's not HUD's suggestion. It's this is what it's for, and we use it. They are giving us some room. There are some waivers, and all of that cannot really be sort of laid out, in this setting, if I may respectfully say that.
Thank you very much. Councilman Mendez and then Abdelaziz. Councilman Mendez.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Ron, good evening. And I do apologize. My internet is been horrible. I don't know if you're hearing me correctly, but I'll try to be brief. I know we'll be having a very extensive discussion, but the concern that I have with this is that this is almost a budget. We're getting a budget for 5.3 million and change. But when you receive a budget, you also receive a salary plan with the budget. So, and what I see is that we're not too sure in terms of the plan because it's wrong. So you're not sure if you're hiring a staff or consulting. So that's the part that I want to talk about it. And also the area number C, so the developer assisting of $2.5 million funding available for rental assisting, developing good rehabilitation of existing permanent rental. So this point, 2.5 million, they will go directly to the developer. I want you to elaborate on those two parts, those two aspects before I continue.
So, Councilman, I don't know exactly what you're referencing in terms of what you've just stated. What I will tell you is we have given you what we have received up until this point. Some information, some guidance, and very little language. And in that document, you would very well see in one of the paragraphs that HUD themselves is saying more information to come. So we are not keeping anything from any council person. That is certainly not our intent. We want to work with excellence and we want to respect every one of your concern. I would just repeat that this is very specific in how we can sort of lay it out. So there is money for development or some rehab, but it is to address people who are either homeless or at risk of being homeless. And it also lays out through the federal registry, if I may. It's the 24 CFR. It's HUD's manual. It's HUD's Bible. They're basically saying you can use these home dollars, but you have to use the 7 categories of how they identify people who are either homeless or at risk of being homeless. So I do understand, and I will report back to my director. Are we saying 1 consultant, 2 consultants? Those are questions that I respectfully would tell you this evening that I am not prepared to answer, as I am not the director.
I totally understand, and that's my point. That we're receiving solid number, but we're not getting that. And I understand. I hear what you say that what you getting from the state, you passing that to us, but you're not clear whether you're hiring staff, whether you're hiring consulting. So, and that's something that's what I was suspecting. But my one of the main concern, and I know some colleagues they already spoke about this. Listen, our homeowners, they're being suffering here in the city of Paterson, and there's got to be a way. I know there's a specific thing that we could move this money around. But what is the flexibility that we have with this funding? I know you mentioned the rent, so there's another section that through rent assistance program, that's another program. I understand that. But there's got to be a way, and we got to have this conversation. We're spending $2.5 million creating permanent resident assistant house unit for homeless, and also $2 million for tenant-based rental assistance for homeless individuals, total of $4.5 million. And at the same time, we have more homeowners that they are close to losing the property. So that's the direction that I would like, that's the conversation that I would like to have on the table. What can we do for those homeowners that we have in the city to give them some relief? That's the topic. And the flexibility that we have in this morning, and how time set.
Okay, so Councilman, I think is frozen.
Yeah, I think after they speak for 3 minutes, the internet cuts off. I don't think there should be
That's very valid points. I do want us to keep to task. I think, Mr. Rowland has several occasions stated that he's gonna bring it back. There's several questions that he cannot answer as he's not the director. The director of finance did provide some of this information. Unfortunately, she was not. She had a scheduled vacation day, so I do appreciate at least you coming, but understanding that you cannot answer all the questions pertaining to this. So they're going outside of, and it's okay to ask the questions, but I think it's a little unfair to ask some of these things right now. So Councilman Abdulaziz, and after Councilman Abdulaziz, we're gonna take a vote, either, you support this for us to accept these monies, and move forward to determine, and get more information on it, or, it's your vote, you can support it or not. Councilman Abdulaziz?
Yes, Council President, I'm gonna just have some direct questions. So, Mr. Rowland, I'm gonna ask you to just provide me what the definition is, or how HUD explains it. What is the definition of chronically homeless individuals?
So there is 7 categories in the Emergency Solutions Grant, 24 CFR. Again, it's called the Federal Registry. And it spells out, as it being 7 categories, it would be very difficult for me to know them all by heart. I certainly have the document here, but one of them is like literally homeless. Anyone who's sleeping in a place that is not meant for an overnight stay, and that it references park bench, the streets, a car, but it also goes out and talks about domestic violence, people fleeing from domestic violence. It talks about veterans. It talks about people who are at a certain income bracket. It's almost, in those 7 categories, it's almost like very difficult not to provide assistance to the very population we serve, to the residents of the city of Paterson.
Perfect. I'm gonna segue into that. So, I'm hoping your department, so if we're getting this $5 million, how many people do you guys have, what's the number? How many of that category that you guys know of, that are this division knows of, that you just said that we serve? What, if you're taking in $5 million, is this gonna serve 1,000 people? Is this gonna serve 500 people? Is this gonna serve 20 people?
Right. So thank you, Councilman, for that question. We have to, by way of HUD rules and regulations, there are 2 things that a organization that receives any type of HUD funds have to do. One is be a part of the COC, the Continuum of Care, which is led by the county. So, and the other thing is be a part of what's called HIMIS, which is Homeless Management Information System. Those numbers are captured in this HIMIS report. So, through the county, who also has to be a part of this discussion, those numbers are available. Again,
what are the numbers?
I personally don't have those numbers available right now, but there is a software, again, by HUD rules and regulations. Nobody can receive any HUD funds or administer any HUD funds without being a part of the Homeless Management Information System, which is a tool to capture all of those numbers.
So I have full faith in you guys following the regulations, right? That's not it. And you know what, Des, let me tell you something. I gotta commend you, all these acronyms, the ABCs and the XYZs and this, you're on it. I'm not gonna know that, right? But this is where sometimes getting a grant's not always a great thing for the city, right? And this is what I wanna see. How long, and this is my last question before I close, how long did your division or the administration know that we were getting $5 million for this?
If you give me a minute, I can certainly look.
Right? We've had it for a while.
No, we have to, I probably have it in my packet, but there is a date.
So exact date, approximately how many months did you guys have this? Or know that we're going for this $5 million or getting this $5 million? Because this is ARP money, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes.
Matt, would you know? And then I'll close, Council President. That's my last question.
VA, do you know?
Like
No, the HUD dollars directly are separate from the regular allocation.
But just to know.
Yeah,
we didn't get this money. So what I'm saying is we didn't get this money last week, a month ago. we knew there has to be a reward letter, right? The HUD has to say, hey, Paterson, we're gonna give you $5 million.
Now, I'm looking at the resolution, page 2, and this might be, I don't know if, Dennis, you have this in front of you, but it looks like it was a federal award date of end of September of 9/22.
Yeah, I believe I see a document here. It says September 13th, Madam VA. So I think you're spot on. But Councilman, if I may, we also had to, with what November, what the month presented to us, we had to be able to put this on the calendar, and also present it before we got it to the council body, to the council committee. So, to answer your question, I think the VA is absolutely 100% right. It's September. And I also just want to mention one thing. I know that I'm on record. So again, all we want to do is present you with accurate information, and we want to do the best. I will say, can I say one last thing, and I'll definitely be quiet. I have not seen one grant in my time in the city that has solved all the ills or all the issues when it comes down to homelessness or people who are at risk of being homeless. So I do think that the $5 million, although it may not solve the entire problem, but it's a start.
So, and thank you, Jess. I'm gonna close, Council President, and to my colleagues and to the public. When I question the director on some of these things, right? For instance, the $2 million, the $2.5 million, that allows you to rehab existing permanent rental housing. So, that you're not allowed to use it. So our residents, right, if you own a 2-family and you want to rent one of your apartments for the chronically homeless population, you can't use that money to rehab your building because it's only for people that don't live in that building. She said that on the record. That was one of the HUD requirements. 2, we get $5 million. And Dennis, you're right. You probably have never seen a grant that solved all the ills. But I can tell you, there's been grants that have come into the city and we haven't used it because we didn't have a plan in place, right? And this is what we received money where I work. We get the money, we put the plan in place. So we're going to use this $5 million. We're going to take $2 million for this project on this street. We're going to use $1.2 million for this. We're going to use $800,000 for that. It's all labeled, ready to go. That's why I want to know the time frame. Right now, it's like, hey, we're going to get $5 million. We have 10 categories. Let's throw it on the wall, right? And then guess what's going to happen? I can pull up articles. Paterson has to give back the money because we didn't use it. Not saying that you guys are there, but when you get a grant in place, you look at your needs, you look at what the plan is going to be. Now, Councilman Velez said something that I had to agree with. Are we going to use that money to rehab buildings or for a development? No one knows. No one knows. The other $2 million, how are we going to get this here? No one knows, right? It may not have to come back to the council. It may not have to go through there. So, Madam VA, I'm going to go to you because this is not directed at you, Des, but Madam VA, this is where the administration has to. You get $5 million, come with a preliminary plan of what we're going to do. What area you're going to try to go at it, right? There's 7 categories. We're taking this $5 million for this category. We're going to go for the domestic violence victims. We're going to go for people that have grandparents, right? I don't know where you guys are going with this. I don't know if you guys are going to say, oh, let's build a $4 million homeless shelter. And then we're looking around the city where we're going to build that. Not saying I'm against it, but we don't know what that plan is, right? Maybe it's not needed in certain parts of the areas. So that's where I stand on this.
Okay.
We'd like to see a blueprint of what we're going to do with the $5 million.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Mims?
And so, Councilman Abdelaziz, you spoke longer than 3 minutes. I just want you to know that, but you took some of my points away. So I'll give you those extra minutes and I'm going to go straight.
Well, I haven't spoken the whole meeting.
Yeah, I know, but I gave it to you. I said he can talk longer on that because you're right. So I was going to say the quote that says, when we fail to plan, we plan to fail. And I absolutely agree what Councilman Abdelaziz said in the latter part of his conversation. Dennis, thank you so much. You know, I highly respect you and the work that you do. And for you to reiterate off of the top of your head all of the stuff that you did is astounding to me. But when I hear the 7 categories that outline, knowing that one of the definitives of being homeless, right, and that was put into law says that if you stay in Paterson for 24 hours, you become a resident of the city. That is a law, and that is an issue that Mayor Raza in Newark has been fighting on the front line, took some hard stands with this serious homeless and vacancy issue that we have in the city of Paterson that is really spilling over, which started in a small space and now it's expanding to Councilman Jackson's points. And now people, I don't know if they got tents for Christmas, but now we're starting to see them pop up tents all over the city and they're sleeping in the tents. For me, with an item like this, and I think it's a powerful item, but before we go forward in this item, there should definitely be some strategic planning around those categories, identifying, number one, through a system we had through the county called Homeless Connect, how many people are homeless. I don't know if we still have that ticker system, have we identified what that number looks like? And then based on the 7 categories, how it will impact, how can it be, how can we best utilize the money based on the number that's outlined, and then to understand, are we gonna take some of the properties that are on the abandoned list or need to be demolished and revamp some of those properties and utilize it for this purpose so that we can make, get the best out of the money that's being provided to us? What is the timeline from HUD? What are their requirements through the mandated process that they put forward? Like, what is the wiggle room that we have? If we have none, we need to know and identify that. But we have a lot of people that are in place in the city that this council has approved, that's been doing financial data for data analysis and so many things. We should connect them with community, with your department, Dennis, I'm speaking to the DA, have them work on this data and put together, do a needs-based assessment, create a strategic plan. But until that is done, I don't think we're ready for it on tonight. This is my personal opinion. So I want to put on the record, Council President, that I am removing my second motion because none of these things are in place just based on the conversation and the dialogue. And I want to make sure that we're not in a situation as we've been in times past where we've had monies, had opportunities, and we're not getting better at it, it's getting worse. When you look at places like where the train trust, so by Alexander Hamilton, where our school and our kids have to pass it, we now have a temporary solution because we were cleaning it up, and they were going right across the street to the Juan Pablo Park. And it wasn't really a true resolution. So what New Jersey Transit has done temporarily, they put a gate. You have churches where they could not resolve it, they had to put gates. And some of them are still climbing over the gates. They're sleeping in the swings and the slides, and it's just a lot. So I believe for this item, I don't think we're ready until there is a full-fledged plan, because I don't want us to get excited over this money, and it sounds wonderful, and we have no plan and no execution to follow up on it. So with that said, and I'm saying it again, remove my second from this item. I don't believe we're ready. So I just would like my second removed, Council President.
Okay, so you can remove it, and you put me as a second, Madam Clerk. Now I'm gonna say this. Is my
Actually, I didn't move it. I don't know if I had to remove mine.
No, she removed her. So you moved it, and I said, then I will second it. But this is what I want to say. This item came through our Councilman Rivera, who wanted it to come to finance. And the reason why it's at the year end is because there is a timeline here. So by doing that, then, we then stand to not be able to apply for those monies. To be able to accept those monies. So, I'm not there, okay? I prefer to have it, and you know what? There's things that do have to come back to us. So with that said, I want to move forward. If Councilman Velez continues with his motion to move it, and I'm going to second it, and then I'm going to ask for a roll call. So the final word, if you could
Council President, there was a statement that you made that we cannot upset. We already have the money in the bank. The problem is that they are amending the money that's supposed to be allocated for something. Now, the amendment is not even here. If I'm going to look at it if they're amending to give that 10% and that 5% to hire individuals, then we have a problem. Because from $5.3 million that was specified for two items, and they amending to put the 10% to 5% to studies and this and that, then we have a problem. So that's why, I don't.
You can put it. I'm
Well,
sorry. No, I heard what you were saying.
yes, I remove my motion.
You're gonna remove your motion. Okay.
If I may, in closing, Council President,
Yes, go ahead, Councilman. Councilman, Mr. Moore.
I just wanted to share to the council body. I certainly understand all of your questions and concerns. Unfortunately, with many of these grants, again, with my time here, we don't control the process. What we have before us is the request to accept this allocation. And you're absolutely right in many of your questions and concerns, how we're going to lay this out. But some of the things that were mentioned, I just want to repeat and say the 7 categories is basically telling us the people that we can impact. It's how we define individuals or families who are homeless. That's what the 7 categories are. And then it's very specific and intentional in how we can spend this money in terms of rehabbing or manufacturing or building something new. Outside of that, we do not control the process. Many grants that come before us, we get the award, we get some basic information and some guidelines, and we present it to you. All of your questions are very important, and I hope that we can continue this dialogue regardless of how this moves forward in terms of this grant. And I want to thank you for your time, Council President and Council.
Can we move this to January workshop? I would suggest moving this to a January workshop. The person that motioned it pulled it, the person that seconded it pulled it.
I'll move it, Council President.
I would recommend it go to a workshop, Council
No. Listen to this. If the council today wants to take action, then it'll be moved. I understand you want to move it to the workshop, but if there's a councilman that wants to move forward and there's a second on the floor, then I would.
Move.
So, Madam Clerk, the move is made by Councilman Jackson and the second by Councilman Mendez.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
What are they moving?
So what we would do is what you have in front, right? With having a discussion.
No, he wants to.
Council President, you want to vote? Let's vote. It's roll call.
No, I'm asking what the vote is. That's what I'm saying. What we voting on?
You're voting on item
number 18.
I thought Jack said he wanted it to be removed. No.
That's what I mean, Madam President. It was my understanding.
He's not voting to.
I moved it to be voted on.
Okay.
Council President, if I may.
Let's roll call, Council President.
Madam President, if I may, that's not my intention. I think that.
You want to remove it.
At this time, I understand that we're not ready to vote this.
Okay, so Councilman Jackson moved it and Councilman Rivera seconded it. I'll call Madam Clerk on item 18.
Council President, roll call on item number 18, which is resolution 21676 for approval. Councilman Abdulaziz.
I was trying to get to have us, have the administration present a plan for us in the first week of January, so we have more clarity of what they're gonna spend this money on. But we're voting on it. I can't support a $5 million allocation without knowing where it's going. My vote is no.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cotton.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I forgot, I know when Dennis had said that, but this thing needed to be, this is a one-time allotment of money that's coming down. I'm not happy about the 10%, no, the 5% of it. The 10% is the normal, what they normally give in all your grant money that you get down. CDG money, The 10% is normally the whole allocation. Now, you would have to have someone, I mean, you have to go out there now to see what developers or nonprofits that would, because to build a building, you still can't build it up for $2 million. You still can't put something up brand new for $2 million. So whatever's in existence would have to be in existence. I know with the affordable housing, and Dennis Rowland has said it, you know, I know there's going to be a timeline to get this money. I just disagree with the 5%, but only the 10% on it. I wish, you know, the month of October, November, we had one-on-one meeting. It was really not there, but I just can't see us sending back $5 million. I just can't. You know what? I told you, council members, you want to go down to Washington, D.C. with me to HUD, because I'm really, you know, HUD needs to do a better job as far as helping homeowners. They haven't allocated no money for homeowners. They haven't allocated money for really working people. And so, and I said, the first opportunity that I get, I'm going to be down there in Washington, D.C., so they can understand. And I know our Congress can understand some of the stuff but just to be down there to argue back and forth, we got 400-something Congress people, you know, arguing for their community and stuff. I can't send $5 million back. But that being said, Madam Clerk, my vote is yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Jackson?
Pass.
Councilman Mendez?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So before my vote, I was definitely hoping to have a more discussion and give the opportunity to administration to come back with a solid plan. What we're getting, it's a budget. We're getting a solid number, and behind a solid number, you have to put a solid plan behind this. I think that, you know, at one point, they don't know if they're gonna hire a consultant, they're gonna hire the staff. They don't know where they're gonna direct in one line, what category they're gonna direct the effort. And I think that this is not, it's not a good idea. And Councilman Alvarez, I do agree with you when you say that not every grant is a good grant if you don't have a solid plan behind. We all know our homeless situation is out of control. Most of the people that you see sleeping in those benches, they're not even from Paterson. We're getting people from all over the state, Atlantic City, Morristown. Those people, they come to Paterson, they become our problem. So I think that for the further, I would love to see helping homeowners, people that will be able to get into this type of program and fix their property. It's some relief. I definitely don't agree with this. The administration, they should do a better job, and they have the time to come back and say, listen, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do A, B, and C with this amount of money, and that's what we got. But that's how we have it in front of us, and I cannot support this. My vote is no, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Mims?
So Paterson, I'm gonna say this, I said it in discussion. We don't need an appeasement. We don't. We've been dealing with a homeless situation, vagrant situation for a long time. We can go back to when we had the needle exchange program and we were out campaigning against it, writing letters to the state, and needles were all over the city. And then they appeased us, sent us about $10,000, and we're using people in the community to go and pick it up with broken broomsticks and broken mop sticks with no proper gloves or any of that stuff. And all of a sudden, after writing these letters and making some hard stands, there was a group that was out there advocating and doing their due diligence. We saw that concern was resolved, but it still did not resolve a lot of the other issues. There is an ordinance on the book that Councilman Jackson wrote about people coming and standing and in the middle of the street with cups in the establishments and asking for money and all this stuff, still not enforced, not being dealt with for various reasons. And I know we all see them in the middle of the street, sleeping on the benches, sleeping in yards, in the parks, on the church steps. They are absolutely everywhere. And to hear $5 million, it sounds great, but I agree with Councilman Abdelaziz, you said it best. I'm gonna send you an offering tonight. We saying to send it back, we don't have a plan. You're not sending it back. We don't have a plan. It has been stated. There is no clear-cut plan. We don't know how many people this will address. We don't even know if it's going to take care of 1/4, 2/4, 1/3 of the situation. We don't know because there is no plan. There is no outline, detailed needs-based assessment. There is no analytics that drives the data or drives the assessment of what we're looking to do. So to even vote on this without having that done is not a good thing. We got to make sure we have that in place first. If we're going to fix something, we got to understand, number one, what is the problem? How many people are impacted or affected by this particular situation? And then what are we doing to resolve it? $5 million is a lot of money, and I'm grateful. But we cannot just apply for money with no plan, because guess what's going to happen? We still got to draw down on the money. We still got to go through, right? And I know Dennis will shake his head because I'm on community development. We still got to have a plan. You still got to draw down. You still got to do your due diligence as the administration to make sure we follow HUD guidelines. HUD, I'm voting for you because Paterson is not going to get this right. So I'm voting no. We're not ready. We should have waited, put the plan together. We would have been in a better position. So HUD, I'm going to save you some time. I'm coming back and redlining Paterson because we were not properly prepared. So my vote, Paterson, is an absolute no. There's no plan. We're not ready. We don't need to apply until we get it together. Thank you so much, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Rivera?
So I initiated the whole conversation about basically not having a plan. Yes, he was supposed to. Unfortunately, that's the day that I made it to the council meeting around 10 o'clock. But once again, don't want to get repetitive. No plan. I have some concerns. I worked with Grant for more than 10 years, even at the county, right? And I have worked with other HUD grants at the county. And this chart here looks very familiar. The format and everything, basically a plan that you submit. Right? I've seen it over there being amended. I have to do a certification of funds for it every time. But don't tell me that the numbers that are here are given to you by HUD. They give you the full amount and tell you what categories you can use it on. Right? And you do have some limitations on the admin. But I did ask, if you have $265,000, right, that's for consultants. At least tell us what the plan is. Why do you need how many consultants? $530,000 for employees. We have a lot of experience, even during the budget process. Every time a grant is no longer available, the administration have to make the tough decision of letting that person go or keeping them. Oftentimes, what the administration does is put it on the taxpayers, which it should not work this way. I've seen it done since I've been a councilman. And the administration, makes a case that we need to keep this person, It happened recently. A person was moved from CDBG to Human Services. The funding was no longer there. And he's getting to me. All we see is we're getting $5 million. I think it's Councilman Morris and Councilman Abdelaziz said it today. Not every grant fund is good for the city. I'm not saying this is not, but maybe we need a plan to show that this is good for the city. I also have a concern we see. I want to make sure this money doesn't go to one of the developers. Somebody mentioned this here before. I don't know if it was Councilman Mendes or Councilman Jackson.
Councilman Velez.
Councilman Velez said it. I want to make sure that this 2.5 doesn't go to one of the developers that got the tax credits. If you notice, we have a lot of experience, even before I was a councilman, with the CDBG grants of the city. We often have to return funds for many, many reasons. But one way that a grant could get out of hand is by not having a plan. And it was stated today, if you have $530,000, don't tell me that you're not sure if you're going to hire people or not. That's insulting. It's very insulting to me as a councilman. I take it personal every time. That's why in finance sometimes I get heated, because I see the intent. It's sold one way, but then it's turned around and do it another way. And that's insulting. I leave you with this last thing. You guys recall not long ago when we didn't use money that was supposed to go for first-time homeowners, how this administration reallocated the funding to go to a developer. I want to make sure that because we don't have a plan, the same thing doesn't happen in here. Ends up in one of these projects that, I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to kick the dead horse. But my vote is definitely no on this. And I feel, Madam President, that if we don't see some real changes here in the plan, that let's not even waste our time to bring it back until some changes and our concerns are taken into account. My vote is no.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Velez?
I'm just gonna say this, the word culture of this administration. And I'm gonna say a different something. Grants are good when we don't have to match it, and that's great. When grant comes in and we need to match, that's a problem. Now, the culture of this administration. Receive from the American Rescue Plan, direct from Biden, $63 million. Still they don't have a plan. We celebrate that we're gonna receive $63 million, and still we haven't paid the hazard pay. But yes, we stop everything to honor a consultant to tell us what to do with that money. That's the culture of this administration. Now we celebrate that we received $5.3 million, but yes, we need to pull a hold because now we have to give 5% and 10% to consultant to let us know what we're gonna do with this money. You see the culture? Okay? Now, why we have to reinvent the wheel when we know already the needs of this community? We know the needs. We're talking about homeless, but not only those homeless, we got people suffering from this pandemic that lost their job, lost their mortgage, lost a lot of things, and we don't have no solution. And we will say because we put the plan to them, and they still don't have a plan. We got more plans. We got 9 plans together. If they take our advice, this administration will be a successful one. But they don't want to be a successful one. They want to be a failure one. And let me tell you something, okay? HUD give us money to address new homeowners and to create program for people that want to purchase their house. But yes, this administration took $500,000 and gave it to the private developer to make sure the English Stadium move forward. We don't forget about that. But now, if I say yes to this, I'm giving a blank check again to this administration, okay, to do whatever they want, to pay back, not a plan, to pay back favors for those that needs a favor from this administration. And that favor is not going to the community, it's going to those private developers and those individuals that he had to pay back. So my vote is total no until they don't get a real and true and real leadership plan for the city.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So it's hard to argue with, quite a bit of that, especially the commentary from Councilman Velez, because he's absolutely correct. But here is the disappointment. All the things that I'm hearing people complain about now, this has been going on for the last 3 years. There hasn't been a plan put in place 1 second by this administration. In fact, I can note several, objectives. One of which that comes to mind is the $90 million that was allotted to the Hitchcock Stadium, that there was a promise for Paterson people to create the creation of jobs and the creation of residual income. And we created 3 jobs there, and the contractor said clearly, we refuse to hire any other Paterson people. And I don't hear anybody up in arms about that. I can go as far back as the trailer, but there was no plan for that, and we supported it. There was so many objectives here that we support totally, and the money is squandered. As we recently approved the $500,000 to the consultant that supported this mayor's campaign in his dark fund of the One Paterson money, where we don't even know how much is being contributed there. But I'm gonna tell you what I do know. I'm gonna tell you that every time people ride into the city of Paterson on the Route 19 corridor, there's now 10 to 12 tents that's there. There's people sleeping in cardboard boxes all over the city. There's people pissing and urinating, defecating on entrances of all city buildings. I have photographs of people sleeping on the entrances and corridors of city buildings, not only, let alone the private sector and what they have to deal with, on top of paying astronomical amount of money for tax dollars on their properties, but they still have to deal with the vagrancy and the homeless people that's being imported into our community. This council nor this administration has taken on an agenda of people that are dropping people off. We all know this is what's happening, but nobody wants to stand diligently on it. Now we have $5 million. It's a small bucket of money. It's not the same as $90 million or the $140+ million that nobody here wants to take credit for, because we keep on pushing and passing the buck, saying, "Oh, we didn't have an opportunity to make, decisions on that." But we continuously approve the things that this administration has squandered. And now, as an old school saying, Councilwoman Cotton, you may have to help me with this one because I don't get these old school sayings correctly. But the rooster is coming home to the roast, or whatever the case might be. What went in the wash is coming out in the rinse. All kinds of old school sayings that you can talk about. Now we're feeling the ramifications of a poorly ran administration that has been giving jobs away to people who have absolutely no clue of what they're doing. When you hire people who have no credentials, when you put people in position that have no credentials, and now we have, I have to applaud. This is my first time ever seeing Brother Roland come before the council to make a presentation, and I think he was very thorough in outlining what this money can be allotted for. So even though I agree, because I'm the one who mentioned what's the plan to begin with, even though I understand that there is no plan in place, there's an outline, and it can't go outside of those lines. And the culture in which Councilman Velez talked about has been prevalent the entire time. We hire consultants to do all kinds of things. I would like to see the metric for the punch-in for these consultants, whether it's the data management consultant and everyone else, that I want to see their thumbprint on when they've been coming to work, because I know that they've been allowed to work from home while they make a 6-figure salary. By the way, it's not being paid by us, being donated by the college through philanthropy. Yeah, because these philanthropists that have an interest in investing in Paterson because they get a return from these grants and by way of consultant gigs. So this is what's been going on forever. But I'm gonna tell you one thing: the first ward is being impacted by it greatly. The train station is being overran. I have Memorial Day nursery there complaining about the vagrants. The people who are dropping their kids off they don't have any place to go because we have nothing to do with these people. You have Alexander Hamilton across the street. This administration has no clue on how to manage it, but I know that something has to be done. We cannot continue to wait to help take care of the homeless population that's overrunning our community. And, with that being said, obviously, I'm reluctantly supporting anything that this administration does because I have no faith that it can do it competently, but something has to be done. Even if only half of the money goes towards getting rid of some of these vagrants, some relief needs to be done, needs to be given to the public, and we have to do something with the homeless population. So, if there is something, I haven't heard anyone here bring forward a plan and or hold this administration accountable in the past. So why do we want to start today? I'm not going to be a part of that. Something has to be done. So although I agree with everyone here in their sentiment of they're not being a plan brought forward, it's nothing new. They haven't brought a plan forward on anything. And in fact, $144 million in tax credits is not going to bring forward any residual income that's going to help our community at all. There was no plan for that, but everyone, outside of myself and maybe a few others, jumped all over that bandwagon. This is something that needs to be done. We need to take care of the vagrants, And, my vote is yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councilman Jackson. Madam President.
Everyone has said a lot, but I'm gonna stand by Councilwoman Cotton, Councilman Jackson. We all know, just today, some of you probably looked at your emails with constituents talking about entering the entrance from Route 19 onto Grand Street, the entrance over by Ward Street, when you're coming from 19 to Ward Street, all of the tents. It's clear to all of us that homelessness is an issue in the city of Paterson. And yes, I also can agree with my other colleagues in terms of the plan, right? But I heard the representative that came on behalf of the Director McLennan, that was specific to, it's earmarked for only certain things. And granted that, yes, we wanted to see the plan of what those specifics were, but I'm not here to vote down something that the community has been crying for. What are we going to do for our homeless population? So with that said, I'll leave it there. My vote is yes.
Thank you, Council President. The votes are 3 yeses, 5 noes, 1 absent. Item number 18, which is Resolution 21676, has failed.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rowland, before you leave.
January.
Mr. Rowland.
Yes, Council President. If I may, thank you. I just wanted to thank every council person. Mr. Jackson stated something that's very factual. It is my first time coming before the council body, so I want to thank everyone for being so very kind. And I just want to make mention that it is not my intent on behalf of community development, nor my director, nor Madam BA, or the administration to insult, to not be clear, or to answer any question that I cannot answer. That would be foolish on my part. There was a comment made that someone was insulted because I couldn't answer whether we were hiring 2 consultants or 3 staff members. And I made it very clear that I am not in the position to make that type of decision or respond. But again, I just want to thank you, and I do want to appreciate all of your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So at this time, we're gonna go into executive, so I guess we have to suspend this, Madam VA, Madam Clerk.
We have to have a motion to suspend the closeout meeting and then to go into executive.
Meeting and go into executive session.
Yes, okay.
Can I have a motion to suspend?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Abdelaziz. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Mendez. Roll call, Madam Clerk, to suspend the,
Roll call to suspend the closeout meeting. Councilman Abdelaziz.
Yes.
Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes.
Councilman Jackson.
Yes.
Councilman Mendez.
Yes, Madam.
Councilwoman Mims.
Before I vote, Madam Clerk, were there special instructions sent out for the executive session?
Yes, Councilwoman. It was sent via email, yes.
From who, Madam Clerk?
It was sent from Ryan Foot.
I didn't receive
From
it.
my email, yes.
I didn't get it, so if you can.
I resend it when I go to my computer.
Okay, thank you. My vote is yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Rivera.
Yes.
Councilman Velez.
So we're gonna log out of this one and come back with another one? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Check your calendars on the thing, you'll see the link.
Madam President.
I didn't vote it, yes.
yes.
The votes are 8 yeses, 1 absent. Special closeout meeting is hereby suspended.
All right, I'll see you guys at the next meeting.
What is it, emergency?
Yeah, if you go to your calendar, invites, you'll see an emergency meeting. So go on the calendar and you'll see it there, guys.
Is this